call to an order. Clayton City Council regular meeting was Tuesday, September 17, 2019. And let me first note that we just recessed our closed session that we started at 5 o'clock. We have nothing yet to report, but we'll reconvene that after our regular meeting. So let the record reflect that all council members are present, and if everyone would please rise me and join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Great, thank you. Well, I actually jumped out of order myself, so nothing to report from closed session. So we'll move on to our first item, which is consent calendar. Are there any public comment, or otherwise on consent calendar? I do not have any speaker cards. Does anybody want to pull anything, or is there a motion?
I would move approval.
Second.
So it's been moved and seconded. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? Seeing none, that passes unanimously. Then we'll move on to our recognitions and presentations. We do have a couple here. And I think we have somebody from the high school. We don't have anybody today from the middle school, elementary school, but I think we're going to catch them up next time. So do I have somebody from the high school? And then if I could ask Kieran Moss, I saw him somewhere, and Sophia Pella. And I think we have Allison Hill from the school. So why don't you go ahead? Come on, Kieran.
All right, good evening. So my name is Allison Hill, and I am the Director of Counseling, Discipline, and Attendance at Clayton Valley. And so I'm going to speak a little bit about the first student here, Kieran. Kieran Moss is a senior at Clayton Valley. He was nominated actually by our principal after learning that Kieran supported Concord PD in apprehending the suspect in a hit and run accident. Kieran's actions were courageous, and we are very proud of his positive impact on our community. Kieran is interested in mechanical engineering, and he has hopes of flying in the Navy. He's a busy young man. Actually, tonight, Kieran is turning in his Eagle Scout binder for his Eagle Scout project. So this is Kieran Moss from Clayton Valley. So our next student is Sophia Pella, and she is a freshman at Clayton Valley. Sophia was nominated by our school nurse and her counselor, who are inspired by her commitment to academic achievement, especially given her diagnosis of leukemia. Sorry. It's kind of emotional for me. She is excited about her future at Clayton Valley and hopes to engage in community service. She hopes that her nomination is a inspiration for other children with leukemia. Thank you very much. This is Sophia Pella.
Ready? Big breath, let it out, and a smile. Good, then it doesn't look like you're dressed.
Great, thank you. And then we have a presentation from the Contra Costa County Fire Protection District regarding fire prevention season. I believe someone's here. Come on up, and if you can. Oh, sorry.
Is this on?
Let me have our city manager go ahead.
This is
It'll warm up.
Okay, it sounds like it's working fine.
Yeah.
This is Chief Burchard from the Contra Costa Fire Protection District. Welcome, Chief.
Thank you, Joe. Madam Mayor and members of the City Council and City staff and residents of Clayton, good evening. Thank you for having me. We've got hopefully some good information to share with you tonight about the fire district itself, as well as fire preparedness and planning. Before I begin, I would like to introduce, although I don't think it's a new introduction, our Assistant Chief of Emergency Medical Services, Terrence Carey, who's with me, who actually serves as more or less our liaison to the city of Clayton, and we're hoping to expand on our ability to come and visit with you every 6 months as an agendized item to have a back and forth ability, in addition to the ad hoc visits that hopefully our battalion chiefs are making from time to time. So Chief Carey is with me as well. Okay, so he told me how to work this. All right. We're off to a good start. So as everybody here hopefully knows, in Clayton, we are your fire department. And this is an older map that was used for station coverage purposes, but it does highlight where our stations are. And you can see Station 11 in Clayton is sort of in the right middle area of the map. All the other numbers that are highlighted are con fire stations. The one area that is absent from this map, or at least not highlighted in appropriate detail, is Fire Station 16, which would be on the bottom left-hand side of that green area. Fire Station 16 was just completed literally last week, and we're doing some fine-tuning to get the crew back into Station 16, so that'll help get us back up towards some pre-recessionary staffing levels. So our district, just real brief history, our district is a series of consolidated fire districts that go back many, many years, several generations. The last series of consolidations was in the early 2000s when we shed our old name of the Consolidated Fire District to the now Contra Costa County Fire Protection District. And that was the merger of West County Fire Protection District and Riverview and consolidated all together. Currently, and I was happily able to update this slide before I sent it over to staff, that we are now up to 26 fire stations staffed from a low of 23 back in the recession, 28 companies from a low of 23 companies during the recession, and our staffing levels are getting us back up to where we were in the year 2010. We still have 2 stations that are closed, and we're working on plans to fill those. Last year, we responded to close to 75,000 fire and EMS incidents, and as the 911 ambulance operator, we responded to 95,000 ambulance calls throughout Contra Costa County. Just a little highlight of our fleet, which speaks to our all hazards missions. Obviously, the typical fire engine that you see, the Type 1 fire engine that responds out of the Clayton station. We have 37 of those. We've been able to get back into rehabbing our fleet after the recession. We have 4 that just arrived that will take the place of some almost 20-year engines. The aerial ladder trucks, the Type 3 engine, you have one of those here in Clayton. That's principal responsibility is to be staffed and respond to wildland fires. It's 4-wheel drive, capable of going off-road, up in the hills, and hopefully getting to that fire to help us keep small fires small. New to us in 2016 was the ambulance service, and we have 53 ambulances that crisscross the county from Richmond and El Cerrito all the way out to Discovery Bay. Happy to report that as of yesterday, we received our second bulldozer. So we have 2 fully operational fire bulldozers, one of which is staffed from July 1 to October 31. And the second dozer is a huge improvement for us. Modern, it's the CAL FIRE spec dozer. And I even got in it and drove it today wearing this. Nobody laughed at me, but it's state-of-the-art and fun to drive. We recently got into the hazardous materials business. Ironically, for one of the most industrialized counties in California, there was no fire-based hazardous materials team in our fire district. So about a year ago, we, in cooperation with the state of California, were able to staff a hazardous materials team that is quite busy. And in addition, our ability to get water to remote sites has been severely compromised for years in the fact that we don't have water tenders. These are fire engines with very large tanks. Really, they're just designed to shuttle water. They're not really designed to fight house fires or things like that. And we have 2 that are on order. One just arrived last week through federal grants. So that will help tremendously in areas around Clayton to be able to get water to areas that don't have fire hydrants. So in the last fiscal year that just wrapped up a couple months ago, we were able to restaff Engine 16. That was restaffed on April 1st, actually prior to the station being completed. We housed them in downtown Lafayette with Engine 15. As I said, Station 16 was just completed, and we're in the process of breaking ground on a new fire station in San Pablo. We are planning for relocations of stations in Pacheco and Bay Point. Those are significant projects. As I said before, we placed the hazmat team into service. And then we had 2 consecutive recruit academies, which is highly unusual for us, but because of staffing issues and retirements, we were forced to put 2 academies in, so we essentially had 12 months worth of academies. A significant lift, and we increased our ranks last year by 36 folks. We have a new academy of 26 people starting in a week and a half as well. And then through the ambulance program, we were able to increase dispatcher staffing, which decreases the call processing time and just gets people moving to the 911 caller quicker. This is a snapshot of 2018 across the district with regards to our statistics. We take the EMS calls out of the pie only because it would be so big that everything else kind of gets diminished. We are a very busy fire agency with respects to fire. We do have almost 700 structure fire calls per year, and of those 700 calls, roughly half of those are what we would call working structure fires, where we have to actually get all 5 companies or more engaged in firefighting. And as you can see, roughly 350 vegetation fires, and I'll talk a little bit more about that season, but it's getting extended year over year. The lion's share of what we do, out of the 75,000 calls, roughly 60,000 are EMS related in one form or another. So some data just very quickly for Clayton that we pulled off of our system. Nothing necessarily surprising for 2018. We had 8 reported vegetation fires, which could be grass fires, a few structure fires. And the EMS calls, you can see year to date through the end of August, we're essentially on track to get right around 700 EMS calls again this year. Vehicle accidents appear to be up. And then the fire alarms, which is a constant issue for us in our industry, with limited resources and fire alarm calls coming in. Not substantial necessarily in Clayton, but again, it looks like we're kind of on track to meet those numbers for 2019. So let's talk a little bit about wildland fire season. The season is not what it used to be. It seems to start around the same time, but the question is, when does it end? And in the last few years, it hasn't ended on time. It's just continued on almost into Thanksgiving, which is very troubling. We are right now in the peak fire season for the Bay Area. September and October are the times where we worry the most. This is where the entire summer has taken its toll on all the vegetation. It's dried out. Everything that was dry is now much drier and available to burn. This is typically where we get our north wind events with low humidities during September and particularly into October. And this is where the state typically starts to get really busy as well. So the mutual aid and the other resources that we rely on from our neighbors isn't as robust as it needs to be. So last year, or I should say last spring, we all experienced a significant rain, and which was great to fill up the reservoirs and help with the drought issue. But what it did do is take that grass that's so prevalent, specifically around Clayton and so much of our fire district, and really allow that grass to grow late into the season. It's thicker, more dense, more prolific than in years past. So that's unsettling, but kind of have to take it if we're going to get the water that we need as well. This is just a simple picture of a fire that actually was in North Concord not too long ago. And this is a fairly typical fire in a somewhat urban environment where you have a combination of grass, non-combustible or non-fire-prone vegetation, which is good, but then you've got structures or other things that are in the path. So whenever you see that really black, acrid smoke, that's something man-made that's burning. That's a car, tires, a structure, something. Grass typically burns, with a white smoke, and this is what we see. We just see grass that moves into fences, that moves into houses, and this was no different. So last year, as I said, we had a long fire season, 192 days, so we were just over 6 months. Typically, in the past, we've experienced 4-month fire seasons. Now we're well over 6 months, and the trend appears to be that is sort of the new normal. Last year, just about 400 vegetation and exterior fires. Exterior fires are other sorts of fires that might be brush or something like that. And of those 400, roughly 30 of them were what we call full or multiple alarm incidents, where not just one engine was able to handle it, but 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 15, 20 engines. Mutual aid was called in. And so it's a substantial draw on the district as well as our mutual aid partners to have to respond to fires if they get big. And one of our goals is obviously to keep small fires small, and we'll talk a little bit about that in a few moments. So as you can see, average of 2 fires daily in fire season, which can be taxing. Sometimes they last for several hours and take units out of service to cover all the myriad of other emergencies that happen and will happen throughout the year. Structure fires, vehicle accidents, all of those sorts of things. But in this environment in the summer, we also add the layer of vegetation and exterior fires. With absolute certainty, I can tell you that virtually all the fires that we respond to have some form of human-caused ignition. The absence of things like lightning-caused fires and so forth, it's pretty much human-caused. If somebody's smoking, drops a cigarette, intentionally set fires, people pulling trailers with their chains rubbing on the ground and sparks coming off, car fires that are up on the side of the road and set the hill on fire. So we are all part of the fire problem. Don't need to remind everybody that, simply put, it can happen here. For all of us that were around for the Morgan fire, some of us here at City Hall in the middle of the night talking with the city manager about evacuation plans and so forth, it was very close to home, probably too close to home. What you see on this map, it's a very complicated map, but it's several maps put together. And the areas that are red, whether they're solid red or whether they're sort of hashed red, are areas of what the state considers to be very high fire hazard severity zones, or what the PUC, the Public Utility Commission, has identified as an extreme threat with a potential to disrupt power supply. And as you can see, that looks like it's about 2/3 of the county, certainly at least half the county. So not germane just to Clayton, but Contra Costa County, like our neighbors to the north, Napa, Sonoma, Marin, Solano, have some significant fire prone areas. So we talked just a little bit about threat to infrastructure, and this is something that's new for 2019. We have not experienced this yet. And that's the PSPS, the Public Safety Power Shutoff Program, as prescribed by PG&E. For a variety of reasons that I'm sure we're all familiar with, PG&E is motivated to try and avoid having their lines come in contact with trees or other things and cause fires. So one of their solutions is to turn the power lines off or de-energize them ahead of weather events, significant wind events, things like that. What is not known, and there's no clarity around this yet, is what the downstream impacts are going to be if there is a PSPS, and it really depends on where the shutdown is. Think of it as a flow of water. Everything downstream of that shutoff point is going to be dark until it hits something, a breaker or something within their system where it can get powered from the other direction. So this is very new for PG&E. They're still working through the process of exactly how they're going to initiate these shutdowns, how, more importantly, they're going to go about restoring power and really trying to help us understand what the impacts are going to be to any of those affected communities. We've been doing a lot of outreach on our own with the Sheriff's Office of Emergency Services, with local police departments, and PG&E is also doing some outreach to try and better understand it. The one bright spot so far is that PG&E has originally talked about 2 to 5 days without power. They've since backed that down to 48 hours or 2 days is their estimation. They think that they've figured out ways to inspect all the lines and get the power back on quicker than they had originally estimated. But this is the start of the philosophy that we all have to be prepared. If you think about Clayton and the surrounding area being without power for even 2 days, where are people going to get groceries? What are people going to do with the food that's stored? If you have insulin, how are you going to keep it cold? What are you going to do if it's 110 degrees, which is likely to be very hot during one of these shutdown events? If you have elderly parents or relatives living with you, if you operate a small residential care facility that doesn't have or is not equipped or required to have a generator for backup power, these are all things that we all need to think about. Where are you going to get fuel? We're hoping that the shutoffs are not so widespread that things like stores and gas stations will be open, maybe 10, 15 miles from here, but it's still uncertain. And until we start to experience some of these events or get better modeling from PG&E, those are still outstanding questions. So what can you expect? Prior to a fire scenario, you've all heard of red flag, and those are fairly predictable based on 12 to 24 hours advance notice from the National Weather Service, from CAL FIRE and others that tell us that the temperature is going to go up, the humidity is going to go down, the winds are going to come from the north or from the east, and it's just going to be what we call fire weather. So we will upstaff resources and put additional people on duty. We'll take the bulldozer from a 12-hour staffing model to a 24-hour staffing model. We will do other things like pre-positioned strike teams, which is 5 engines, 15 to 20 firefighters in the county from another county, and just beef up our response capability. Things like public safety power shutoffs could happen. If you've lived in this area long enough, you kind of know, you kind of feel it. It's drier. That's when the common sense should kick in. Things like barbecuing near dry vegetation should probably be curbed. Other things like that, and that's where we should all at least start to think about the evacuation plan, the what if scenario, because we're in that weather mode. What I would ask is that anybody who sees smoke, especially during the wildland season, is to call 911. Don't necessarily assume that anybody else is called. So please feel free to call, and you'll get routed to our communications center. And if you're the first, great. And if you're the 100th, that's fine too. But definitely stay active and help us know what's going on. During the event, we will do our best to post updates and information to social media, working with other partners such as the Sheriff's Department, your police department, using things like reverse 911. To notify people of either shelter in place or evacuation. This is where I need to take a pause and do a sort of a public safety announcement or a plug for the community warning system that's operated by the sheriff. It's absolutely imperative that everybody sign up for the community warning system, which you can do at www.cwsalerts.com. Very easy to do. For those folks that have...
Come again, what was that?
It's www.cwsalerts.com.
Go on.
The new trend is for people to just have cell phones and not have traditional landlines. If we don't have traditional landlines. We can't get a hold of you with reverse 911. It doesn't work through the cell phone system. So that's another reason to get into the CWS registration. So we will use things like reverse 911. We will use, obviously, the traditional media that is bound to be out here and assisting us with notifying folks, TV and radio and so forth. Road closures, shelter in place, things of that nature will be communicated as best we can. But when it comes to being aware, people need to know how to get in and out of their communities. And probably the most important part that really isn't covered too much in here is for people to know their neighbors. It's the oldest technology that's available, but it's one of the most reliable forms of technology. And as a society, we're just not in that mode much anymore of knowing your neighbors. If you know of a neighbor that has a health condition or needs assistance, those are crucial and could save lives. So very important to know your neighbors. The reality in wildland fires is that the wildland fire itself often is the shortest part of the overall incident. As we're seeing in some communities, the recovery phase is months or years long. The fire was actually only a week in duration. In many cases, for us here, we can have a fairly small fire that affects maybe a couple of homes, and those homes may be damaged or destroyed, and that is part of the recovery process. So one of the things that we advocate that people do is in preparing and planning for evacuation, it's important to know where your information is, where's all your important documentation, where are all those things that you know you need to have, because when you leave, there's absolutely no guarantee that when you come back, everything's going to be the way it was when you left. So get out in front of that. There is often not enough time to gather all those things. Make copies of passports, credit cards, all that type of advice is really important. It takes a few minutes to do now, and will save a ton of work and effort and heartache if tragedy should strike. We work very closely with the American Red Cross, a wonderful partner, and they help us with setting up evacuation centers if those should be necessary. And they do come and help individual families who suffer disasters, individual disasters such as fires in their home. So here's some resources for us. These are brand new. We developed them with the Sheriff's Department this summer in mid to late July, actually, and they're available electronically. The Resident's Guide to Wildfire Preparedness and Evacuations. There are a ton of nuggets of information, everything from defensible space planning to evacuation planning to information about CWS. How to prepare your home and your property. It's been a long time in coming putting this together, but there's a lot of really good information. I drove around Clayton a couple of days ago, maybe it was late last week, and overall things look very good. I noticed when I first came into town there's a sign that talks about accountability and responsibility, and really a lot of what we're talking about with preparation comes right to that. If there's 4 homes on a street and 3 of those homes do the right thing and create defensible space, keep all of their pine needles out of their gutters and do everything they're supposed to do, but the 4th house, doesn't do that, it could very well make all the efforts of the other folks for naught. So I'm all about peer pressure. If you can get neighbors to comply by peer pressure, that's great. But it does take a community to make these things work. What we've seen in communities like Santa Rosa and others that have been devastated by wildfire, it's the hardening of homes, it's the defensible space, it's the common sense with regards to ornamental shrubbery and trees, cypress trees. They're like vegetative Roman candles. They look great. but when they catch on fire, they're vertically oriented. Fire goes straight through them, and if it's windy, it's going to take little bits and pieces of it and send it over onto somebody's roof or somebody else's cypress tree or somebody else's pine tree, and that's where the communities really start to see the fire spread, especially if it goes from tree to roof, roof to roof, roof to tree, and so on and so forth. It's not necessarily that dry grass that's the problem anymore. That may have been where the fire started a quarter or a half mile away. It's all that defensible space and the highly flammable, in some cases, ornamental shrubbery. So I think I talked a little bit about this, but really it starts with all the residents and all the property owners and the landowners. There are 65 staffed fire engines within Contra Costa County. Almost half of them are within your fire district. But that's from Discovery Bay to El Cerrito. All 65 of those fire engines can't converge on Clayton or anywhere else on a moment's notice. It takes time, and there are other emergencies going on. So when we have a significant fire, we have to call for help from Solano, from Napa, from Alameda, from other places. And I just bring that up because there's 65 engine companies in Contra Costa County that are available right now to help you, but there's hundreds and thousands of residents that can help us if they help themselves and take responsibility and create defensible space around their homes. The Wildfire Preparedness and Evacuation Guide also gets into the Ready, Set, Go program. And gives you information about how to properly prepare for an evacuation, how to plan and understand your evacuation routes. In some cases, there is only one way out, and if that's the case, hopefully you know it by heart, but in some other cases, there might be 2, 3, or 4 different routes out. And you need to know how to do that in the dark. And it may be 2 o'clock in the afternoon, but not a day has turned into night because of all the smoke. So you need to be familiar with your roadways and confident enough to navigate those in some very dark and bleak conditions. So anyway, enough of the sales pitch on the Wildfire Preparedness and Evacuation Guide. It is available electronically, and it can be printed off as well, and it has different links in there for other resources that are important. So with that, I will conclude my remarks, and one last bit of information before I'm done. We do have some defensible space brochures and materials at the back of the room on the table that I left. Those have been updated, and the very front page, it does talk about the most important part, and that is you, the homeowner, taking responsibility and accountability to do the things that are outlined in this, not necessarily because the law or a code or an ordinance says you need to, but we all know that we have to, because that's the only way that we're really going to stop the spread of fire from street to street, is if everybody does their part. Lots of information and good pictorials in here to help people navigate and understand. And then we are always available. The Fire Prevention Bureau has a lot of dedicated folks that can come out and help you understand better what's going on your property or what needs to be done. So, Madam Mayor, thank you very much for your time, and certainly able to, or hopefully able to, answer questions.
Good, thank you. Great, that was great. Very very helpful. I do have 2 questions, and I have a feeling my colleagues may have some other questions too. One question is regarding arson, or maybe it's more of a comment. So I heard from Supervisor Diane Burgess that I think she's at the county level working on getting cameras at all entry points on Marsh Creek Road, maybe as a deterrent, for people entering Marsh Creek Road and starting fires there. But is there anything we as a city or otherwise can do about arson otherwise?
Well, I think arson is like any other crime, and it's people being vigilant and watching what's going on in their community. And so the old neighborhood watch philosophy is very appropriate. If you see something that's odd, call someone. Call the local law enforcement agency if you see a car stopped on the side of the road or somebody acting strangely. Those are probably the best ways to deter that kind of activity.
Okay. And then my other question is, I'm wondering if you could address your aerial fleet a little bit, and maybe it's not with the Contra Costa Fire, but somewhere else. But I know that a couple of the recent fires we've had, I think we've seen the helicopters with the buckets and
sure.
the airplanes with the red stuff, whatever that's called.
Did somebody set that up? I mean, that's a great question, and I'm happy to answer it. And I'm happy to, because yesterday, 6 of our captains entered a training program with Reach Air Ambulance, where they will be staffing the Reach Air Ambulance starting at the end of the month on the 28th. We have just entered into a partnership with Reach Air Ambulance, where Reach has purchased large helicopters. They will be at Buchanan Field. We will be staffing those, and they will have firefighting capability. So it's not just your typical air ambulance that goes and grabs a patient and takes them to the hospital. It does that, but it also has a winch for dynamic hoisting, which is what we need on Mount Diablo, and then the aerial firefighting capacity should have a 175-gallon bucket on that aircraft. So starting sometime after the first of the year, Contra Costa County Fire will have 2 helicopters at Buchanan. There will be 1 traditional air ambulance, and then the second helicopter is a larger helicopter that's able to do the multi-mission. So that gives us an incredible force multiplier here in Contra Costa County that is staffed 24/7, 7 days a week, that will get dispatched by our comm center to a fire anywhere within our county. And it's at no cost to the district. It's a program that's being funded by Reach. It'll be doing the air ambulance work as well, but that will be a significant change for us. Not so much this year, because the aircraft won't be ready until the first of the year. Next summer, that will be quite a game changer. The rest of the air resources are all owned and managed by CAL FIRE. They're superb at what they do. I was on a fire last summer on Marsh Creek Road near the detention facility. It was only about 130 acres, but I was at the command post, and I looked up, and there's a 747 flying, several hundred feet over my head. That's just not something we're used to as local government firefighters in the Bay Area. We're used to seeing that when you go to these really large fires. And so the contract aircraft that they have out at McClellan up in Sacramento can be here very quickly, and those are huge. They're the biggest air tankers that exist, and routinely we do see them on our fires. So CAL FIRE is a great partner. The helicopters they have, one is Cobb Mountain, I believe, north of St. Helena. The other one is down on Highway 17 at Alma. And they get here relatively quickly, but we're looking forward to having our helicopter be sort of in the middle of those two and being able to get here much quicker.
Great, thank you. Councilmember Wolf, I know you.
Thank you for the important and informative presentation. Really appreciate it. I got just a quick question about the community alert system. Is that a one-stop shop? I noticed you said fire, rescue, EMS, and on the bottom of the other slides it also has law enforcement. Is that a one-stop shop for everything that would be alerted to us? For instance, the other day I got an alert about a citizen that was missing or in the city. Is that just one sign up and you're ready to go?
Well, you're signed up with the CWS, the Community Warning System.
Right.
And it's up to us and the law enforcement partners to push that information through that system to you. It's not the only way that we will communicate with you. I had mentioned reverse 911. That's a very traditional way that we would also use to communicate. And then for PG&E specifically, you probably all got the mailers. I did, that prompted you to sign up with PG&E, because we, nor the Sheriff's Department, will be pushing PG&E power shutoff notifications through the CWS. So in order to be ahead of the game with PSPS, you need to have been signed up with PG&E directly, and they would send you a text or an email or something. So there's, fortunately or unfortunately, several different avenues of communication. Traditionally, for us, when we have an evacuation or something like that we're going to initiate, we will, at the command post, work with, in this case, Clayton PD, to identify where those evacuations need to take place, and then one or both of us will work back through the sheriff's OES duty officer to get that information sent out through the CWS.
Great. And again, that's cwsalerts.com.
cwsalerts.com. Yes, that bottom site there, cwsalerts.com.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Great. Vice Mayor Pierce, you have a question?
Yes, I do, with the microphone warm up. I do have a question. There's a group of folks here in Clayton who live in homes that border the wildland. They're on the wildland interface, who last summer decided to be a little more proactive and learn what they could do to protect themselves, and are working hard to reinvigorate our neighborhood watch program, and perhaps even the CERT program if they can get enough volunteers to do that. But the speaking bureau that you're talking about, some of your employees that would come out, would they come out to a group of 20 homeowners, or does it need to be a larger group, or what, to help people understand what they can do to protect themselves?
I'd like to say that we would come out to a single homeowner, but if you can get 20 together, that would be fantastic. That makes life a lot easier for us.
That allows for the networking to know their neighbors is sort of my mental exercise there. Okay, very good. And so we can contact you, or
the general phone number for the fire district. If you go through the website, you can find how to contact us. Otherwise, it's 925-941-3300. And some of the prompts you can get to the Fire Prevention Bureau, and the Exterior Hazard Control Division is really what you're looking for. We don't call it weed abatement. We came up with a fancier term.
all right,
It's not
very
always
good.
weeds.
That would be helpful, because I think we're going to be working throughout the city to get some of those neighborhood watch groups back up and running. They've been a little latent for a while, so
That'd be great.
thank you.
Great. Councilmember Diaz.
Chief, thank you very much for coming out tonight. And as you know, the community here really appreciates and values Station 11, and the fact that it is right in the heart of the city. You mentioned the academies. Are you currently running? You said you're currently running academy at this point, or are you? I know 53 was the last one that I recall.
Academy 54 starts on October 2nd, whatever Monday that is, in 2 weeks. Yeah, and so our normal academies start the first week of October. They graduate in February, and we try and plan as much as we can with as much information as we have to get ahead of retirements and vacancies that usually occur in the spring. So right now we have 26 recruits that will start on that Monday.
Great. And I know you're doing an excellent job in staying ahead of that. Back on the technical side, related to the equipment that you have, you mentioned here you have aerial ladder trucks, 9 in the fleet, 1 on order. Are those the hook and ladder, or are they a different unit? Because I know you had at least 3 of those, the real large one would have the operator in the rear.
Yeah. So for us, a ladder truck is a ladder truck. Some of them are what we call tractor-drawn aerials. They're the articulating one with a driver up front and then a driver in the back.
Got it.
We have 3 of those. And then the rest of our trucks are the really large 41-foot long dual axle ladder trucks, and we have the remainder would be that group. Actually, it says there's 1 on order. It's been here. It's in the shop getting some work done on it. So the ladder truck fleet is usually the most problematic for us to keep in service. There's just a lot of moving parts. They're very heavy, and so we've done a lot of work to try and get that fleet more reliable. And happy to say that last ladder truck is here. It's very close to being put in service.
Great. And last year, by the way, just so people know, we had your command vehicle out on display. So I know it gets around to people can see what kind of technical expertise you have available to meet that. One last thing I want to mention is last Saturday I was able to attend an annual event that the chief and the fire district puts on, and that's their fallen firefighter memorial service. And I guess what I didn't realize is that there were 18 firefighters that were lost over the past period. And one of the things that was striking to me was that the number of firefighters, that just the inherent dangers of the job are an issue for firefighters. But now they're getting cancer, I guess, from getting exposed to elements that are burning up in these various fires that they have to go address.
Cancer is the leading killer of firefighters, and over the last 25 years or so, we've learned a lot more about cancer, how we ingest it. Mm-hmm. It's not always smoke. It sometimes is just residue that gets in through our skin, and we are taking significant steps in the design of new fire stations, our new apparatus. As an example, no more of our protective equipment, all of our turnouts that are all sooty, they don't go inside the cab anymore. They're all in the back because that off-gasses, and it's amazing the research that has been put into figuring out where the carcinogens come from. One of the most ironic pieces of this is that the chemical that is used to fireproof furniture is one of the leading causes of cancer, particularly in a fire. The gases and materials that come off as a result of that is highly carcinogenic. So we're doing a lot to try and curb that, both through better eating habits, better exercise, better understanding of decontamination processes, but sadly it is still a significant issue for our workforce.
Right. And I was just surprised to hear that statistic. And I know you have an in-house medical director that you have on staff to keep you appraised of the latest things that go on in that. But thank you very much. We appreciate your service.
Oh, you're very welcome. Thank you.
Great. Thank you very much for coming out
have a good evening
today.
Thanks.
Great. Thank you. And then next we have one other presentation, which is by Contra Costa Transportation Authority regarding the transportation expenditure plan. And I know that's going to be later up on our agenda as well. But come on.
Madam Mayor, if you'd like, we can have Mr. Iwasaki do that presentation when we get to 9A, or you can have him do it now. It's your choice.
Why don't we do it together then, since you're going to be staying here anyway, right? Yeah. Okay. So let's do it in connection with 9A, so we don't forget what we hear. So let's go into our item 6, which is reports. I think we have a Planning Commission Chair Cloven here.
Chair Cloven. Chairman Cloven. There we go.
You look so relaxed.
I am relaxed. Greetings, council people. We met 3 weeks ago on August 27th. First time we'd had a chance to meet in a while. And quickly realized that it was time to shuffle the deck as far as commissioners. And I was elected to the chair of the Planning Commission for the next year. And A.J. Chipero is the vice chair. We then talked about the new land use subcommittee. And both A.J. Chipero and myself, as chair and vice chair, chose to accept that position on the subcommittee. We realize that's a really important position, being on the subcommittee, and didn't want to limit it to just one alternate. So we made Planning Commissioner Bassam Atwal, as well as Frank Gavidia, first and second alternates in case we weren't able to make it. We think that position needs to be staffed, and if for any reason we couldn't, for conflict of interest or for other reasons, we want to make sure that there were at least 2 commissioners there at the time. We then reviewed the site plan review permit for home at 5869 Pine Hollow Road. They were doing a re-roof that was going to raise the roof line next to the Mount Diablo Elementary School. And 2 of the commissioners had to recuse themselves because they have used that particular roofing company or plan on using that roofing company for future services. It was passed, and that 3-0, we approved that site plan review for that new roof, and then we adjourned. Any questions?
Great, thank you.
Congratulations, by the way.
Thank you.
I just say that roof is going to look spectacular.
We're looking forward to seeing it as well.
Thank you. Looks like you raised the pitch on it a little from what the original mock-up was.
Absolutely, and
Thought so.
it's going to make the place look much better.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Great, thank you. Then we don't have any Trails and Landscaping Committee report, but do we have a report from City Manager?
Yes, Madam Mayor, just two quick items. First, the Regency Drive Pilot Parking Permit Program is officially underway. Of the 45 eligible homes out in that area, I had written 24 homes have pulled their permits, but the number has changed to 26 just in the last couple of days. It seems that those permit requests are coming in. So we're now well beyond the halfway point, and I expect more folks will come in and get their permits. But that's underway. Enforcement is scheduled to start maybe late this month or early next month. Second, at our last meeting, we did have a detailed conversation about pedestrian safety issues around schools in particular. At that meeting, we mentioned that staff would aggressively seek funding to come up with some dollars to put towards some of those opportunities or those solutions that we discussed at that meeting. So that very next day after the meeting, we reached out to the Contra Costa Transportation Authority, and within hours they got back to us, letting us know that there would be some funds that would be coming available to us through the sub-regional money, and that we would be able to apply for that and get those funds in our hand by November 1st. So staff is in the process of doing that, and we will do our best to find ways to build as many of those pedestrian improvements, safety improvements as we possibly can with the dollars that we get our hands on. So again, that's thanks to our friends at the Transportation Authority for pointing out those funds to us. And that's all I have for tonight.
That's great. Thank you very much.
May I make a comment? I want to mention that I continue to visit the Regency area, and I noticed all the signage is up, and it's very noticeable. And it appears that just that alone is reducing a number of the parkers that are in front of the residences, and they're moving on back down to the that other open area. And secondly, regarding your pedestrian and that improvement, I happened to be over in Concord the other day, and they have installed a number of those new stop signs that when you approach them, they light up around the perimeter of the sign. In fact, it's on Alberta near the high school. Can't miss them. I mean, they really get your attention. So.
Great, thank you. So let's go on to council reports, and Councilmember Diaz, do you want to start?
All right. The only couple of things that I have is that last month I attended the Clayton Business and Community Association's general membership meeting, and then on the 31st I attended the Soapbox Derby, plus we had a concert. Then on the 12th, we've had a briefing session with the interim city manager on a number of city issues, so we're meeting regularly with him on an individual basis. On the 14th, we had another concert, but I also wanted to mention that I also attended that annual memorial for fallen firefighters, which was a really very well done event that they do to honor those firefighters that are victims of the job. And then finally, we had another concert on the 16th. That's it.
Great, thank you. Councilmember Wolf?
Okay, I'll be brief as well. The Library Foundation meeting we had on the 21st of August, and the members there brought to my attention that the Keller House was having some trouble with smoking around the Keller House and some dry brush near there. I contacted our city manager, and Mr. Warburton and our city manager went out and they put up some no smoking signs. I understand the brush has also been cleared away there as well. But inside there's some damage which we need to talk about, so I'll bring that up later on. Then let's see, answering emails from citizens, taking a couple of phone calls, always entertaining and very informative. And then I've been having weekly meetings on Mondays with our city manager. Went to the concert in the Grove, where our last concert raised over $1,700 plus. So we are looking to, I believe, set a new record for total donations from our citizens and neighbors and friends and guests. They come to our Concerts in the Grove series, which is finished for 2019, but we look forward to, thank goodness for those donations. We look forward to having the concerts again next year. I think that is it.
Great, thank you. Vice Mayor Pierce?
Thank you. As you will hear very shortly on item 9A, I've been meeting with the Contra Costa Transportation Authority nearly weekly for the last couple of months, and you'll get a report on that a little bit later. Also had a meeting with the Association of Bay Area Governments, a joint meeting with the Metropolitan Transportation Commission, our administrative committee for ABAG, and the planning committee for MTC meet regularly, usually monthly, together to work on issues that affect both of the agencies. We also have our two legislative committees that meet together, and as I chair that meeting for ABAG, we work together on legislation and positions on it. We don't always agree. We sometimes take separate positions, but we generally have a very robust discussion on that. Attended the last two concerts in the Grove. It was, as CW said, a very successful year. We did have record-breaking collections, so this next year we will very soon be starting to hire the bands for next season. That's the reason we collect a year in advance. And I also want to thank the maintenance staff for their very quick attention to and repairs to the restroom equipment. The folks attending the concert never knew the difference, but we had to make some emergency calls during the last concert, and they were out there within an hour or so and able to stem the flood of water, and so saved the city a good bit of resources there. And then they were out there immediately on Tuesday to repair the equipment. And also had a meeting with TransPAC, which is the Central County Transportation Planning Group, working on the expenditure plan and our strategic plan for the next year.
Great, thank you. Councilmember Juan?
Yeah, I was fortunate enough to attend the Moonlight on the Mountain annual fundraising event for Save Mount Diablo. It was great. I think I sat at the government table. I was with the mayor of Pittsburgh, the mayor of Concord, and a council member for Orinda. So we got to talk shop all night. That was fun. It was a great event for the organization. There's a number of items for auction, none of which I won, unfortunately. Yeah, it was a tough call, but kept trying to get a couple things. Senator Glazer had asked for input from, I think, some of his local constituents about upcoming legislation that he had to vote on, one of which was AB 1487. So I had written a letter just to express my view on that. Ultimately, I asked him to vote no on this bill. He did vote no, but it did eventually pass, unfortunately, which I think for the rest of us. And then I think just because the legislative session has ended this week with a number of bills going to the governor, I think it's important to take note of some of the things that both did happen and didn't happen. When we look back, when we talked about CASA earlier this year, there was a number of items on the 10-point agenda that actually did move forward and some that didn't. So things like rent control and just cause eviction, that's going to be in front of the governor. I think he's expressed support, so that will probably go. That will probably pass. One of the items was SB 330, which the governor has also said that he wants to support. That's the one that would limit our ability to increase fees over time. It'll limit the number of meetings. When we talked last meeting about the land use subcommittee, I had a question about the number of meetings that would be able to be held, and under SB 330, all of those meetings that we hold will count towards the tolling of those meetings. So that I thought that was kind of important, that issue. And as I mentioned, 1487 went through, and I think SB5 is the one that's kind of like redevelopment 2.0. That one is going to go to the governor as well, and I think that one is probably the one that's most on the bubble. I think redevelopment in the past has been ripe with problems through inefficiency and mostly going to benefit developers, and so I'm hoping that does not come to pass. But these are things that if you guys have, if there's feelings on it, then I think that it would be a good idea for folks to express their views on that towards their local representatives. So that's it.
Great, thank you. So for a couple of items for me, on August 26th, I attended the East Contra Costa County Habitat Conservancy Board meeting. This is a group that consists of the county, cities of Brentwood, Oakley, Pittsburgh, and Clayton. And I know all of you received this 2018 review brochure, and you can look it up in the online as well. But talks a little bit about their objectives, which are, they do project permitting, but then also their objectives are habitat conservation and land acquisition. So very nice board to be part of. Then on Thursday, September 5th, I attended the Mayor's Conference in San Pablo. We received a presentation on the transportation expenditure plan that we'll hear, I think, today as well. I held mayor's office hours actually during Labor Day when we had the Derby going on, and there was lots of things going on downtown at that time. I'll hold my next mayor's hours on Saturday, September 28th from 9 to 10 at Capo Joe's. Then two other announcements quickly. Oktoberfest is coming up on October 5th, 5, and 6. We are still looking for volunteers, and not only do you get to volunteer and feel good about doing something for the community, but you also get a very cool T-shirt. I got about 4 or 5 boxes of these today in my house. So
if you notice in the logo, you can see the word Oktoberfest is blended in.
It's a little blended, but
that's what it will look like towards the end of the event.
Yeah. Anyway. So you have to volunteer in order to get one of these cool T-shirts. So you can go into claytoncpca.org website and sign up to volunteer there. And then one other announcement, at the council level, we held our first recognition of the Making a Difference Awards a couple months ago when we recognized outstanding teachers, mentors, and coaches. It's time to do the next theme, which is an exemplary community contributor, giver, or benefactor. So we're hoping, we know that there are a number of those people in our community. So if anyone would like to nominate someone for that award, please email us at claytonmakingadifference@gmail.com. And we'll take nominations, and I think Councilmember Wolf and I will go through those, and then we'll recognize again these individuals in our council meeting. So that's all for me. Let's move on to, we don't have any other reports, so let's move on to public comment. I have one card here, but if anyone else would like to speak, you are free to come up and fill a card. Every member will have 3 minutes each. I have Keith Hayden. You can come up.
Good evening, Madam Mayor and Council. I wanted to brief the Council on a meeting I attended today. It actually was a meeting of representatives from the Board of Supervisors and fire districts and concerned local clubs and organizations in the Contra Costa area. It's related somewhat to the presentation you already received from the Fire Prevention Bureau, and it's related to reducing the risk to wildfires in Contra Costa County. And there's actually a plan that was drafted and designed and approved and adopted back in 2009. And it was called the Contra Costa County Community Wildfire Plan Stakeholder Committee Plan. And I was asked to attend a meeting that they held today so that Clayton could be represented, because we are one of the 25 communities at risk that's identified in the plan. And as we all know, we certainly are at risk, surrounded like we are with open space, and the risk to fires now is so high. The plan was actually prepared by the Diablo Fire Safe Council in conjunction with the Contra Costa County Fire Chiefs Association, the Hills Emergency Forum, and the stakeholder committee members themselves. And the plan provides an analysis of wildfire hazards and risks in the wildland-urban interface in Contra Costa County, and it focuses on developing an action plan and recommended priorities that identify and prioritize fuel reduction opportunities across the county and address structural ignitability and collaborate with stakeholders to support and result in a successful action plan. And this is using community communications plans and having a very structured and easy to implement plan that can reduce the risks that our communities face to these fires that occasionally are occurring more and more often. The committee reviewed this draft. It's about a 57-page draft. We went through that today and had a number of revisions that are going to be incorporated, and we're going to be given another week to look over it. And then we are going to be submitting this for public review and to the Board of Supervisors. And I will alert you when that plan is ready. It's going to be on the website of this committee, and I'll let you be able to take a look at that. Cities are not required to approve this or adopt it, but any support that cities can give to this will enhance the possibility that the Board of Supervisors, who are being asked to adopt this, will approve it. And in addition to the Board of Supervisors, CAL FIRE and Contra Costa Fire are also asked to approve it. And the significance of approval means that the plan now is approved by a number of different groups and organizations and can be implemented on a coordinated basis. And more importantly, if there's funding available to reduce risk to wildfires, if there's a community plan like this that's been adopted by a Board of Supervisors, much better chance of receiving funding for that. So I have a lot more information here, but I heard the timer go off. I'll be submitting more information to the council. I do have a sample signature letter if the council would like to support this in the future after you get a chance to take a look at the draft itself. But I think it really is a significant plan to help identify things that the community can do to reduce our risk to wildfire.
Perfect. And maybe you can submit that draft letter to our staff, and then they'll get it out to all of us.
I did bring a number of them.
Or hand it out. Yeah, perfect. Yeah, perfect. Great. Thank you very much. I don't have any other speaker cards, but if anyone else would like to address the council on any item that's not on the agenda, go ahead, please come on up. Seeing none, we'll close public comment. We'll move on to then our next items. We do not have any public hearings, but we do have several action items. Our first action item is council discussion of the Contra Costa Transportation Authority Transportation Expenditure Plan. And I think this is an item that every city in Contra Costa County has now put on their agenda. I believe we're one of the first ones to discuss it. But City Manager, Mr. Subranti, do you want to give us a little bit of an intro?
Perfect. Thank you, Madam Mayor. As you mentioned, tonight before you, you have the consideration of an adoption of a resolution of support for the countywide imposition of a 1/2 cent sales tax to fund the transportation improvements in Contra Costa County and adopting the proposed transportation expenditure plan. So we do have Randy Wasaki here with us tonight to present on this item. Before Randy gets going on what I know he has a PowerPoint for us, I did want to take just a moment to share with you all that, back in 1988 was when Measure C was originally adopted, and that's when Contra Costa County really implemented the self-help approach, if you will, of taxing ourselves so we could help construct our own transportation improvements. And for the past more than 30 years now, I've been either a city manager or an engineer in this county, and I can tell you that over that time I've worked on dozens of projects that were either in part or completely funded by these sales tax dollars that come through the Contra Costa Transportation Authority. In many cases, these important quality of life transportation projects were completed. And they would have never found funding without the opportunity to get funding through this Contra Costa Transportation Authority and this system that we've been utilizing. Now I know Randy's going to speak to this more in a moment, but I want to mention that the residents of Contra Costa County not only benefit from the tax money that we raise ourselves, but the members of the Transportation Authority have become expert in leveraging those dollars to get funds for this county from outside the area, not just from the state, but from the federal government as well. And they've literally, over the years, brought in hundreds of millions of dollars, hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars to put to work for our residents here in the county. And I can tell you as a taxpayer, it's pretty darn reassuring to hear that the local taxes that we pay are helping to bring those dollars in from the outside to Contra Costa County to make these projects happen. And with that lead in, Randy, it's finally your turn to talk.
Madam Mayor, Madam Vice Mayor, nice to see you. Council members, my name is Randy Iwasaki and I work for the Contra Costa Transportation Authority. It's great to be here tonight. So I'm going to run through these slides, I would imagine. And thank you, City Manager Sabranti, for inviting me here tonight. We used to go to school together a long time ago. He got to retire first. So I imagine you know a little bit about the expenditure plan, so I'm not going to try to go into a lot of detail, but maybe add a little bit to that. As Joe said, we were formed in 1988 with a half-cent sales tax, Measure C, probably the third sales tax measure in California. There are 25 counties now that tax themselves for transportation. The biggest one is LA County, 2 cents forever. First 40 years, $120 billion. So it generates a lot of money, a lot of investment are needed. We're also the congestion management agency for Contra Costa County, so we measure congestion at about 140 different intersections throughout our county to make sure that our investments are paying dividends. This is what we do, so no matter where I speak, the deal I made with the commissioners 10 years ago was wherever I go to speak, this is what we do. Recently, we reestablished ferry service in Contra Costa County from Richmond to San Francisco. The reason why I mention that is because the Benicia Martinez got rid of the last ferry service in Contra Costa County going across the Carquinez Strait. It's already past year 5 in the models for ridership. It's about $42 million of Measure J money, leveraging 40% fare box return and the regional money. And we've actually, it's so popular, we've started weekend service. That ferry service would not have happened without Measure J. We also have an innovative program along Interstate 80. It's a bus pass program for underprivileged kids. So if the children get a free lunch, we give them a free bus pass. We want those kids to go to school. And I have some more examples. We're AA+ rated on Wall Street. We used to be AAA rated. They redid the requirements, and so now we're AA+. We used to be rated higher than the state of California. The reason why we do that is our interest rates are very low. So bond against future revenue, we bring it forward. We advance construction of much needed transportation infrastructure projects. We get a faster rate of return on your dollars. We're also 7 years straight, we've got a platinum award from the governor's finance reporting for clean audits. So we audit ourselves, independently audit ourselves. Something that we're most proud of is we just got good governance award from the Taxpayers Association of Contra Costa County. So we're very, very proud of that. 20 employees managing a multi-billion-dollar suite of projects and programs. We have 1% limitation on admin. We've paid off our pension liability, so we have no pension liability currently. If PERS ends up dropping the actuarial tables a little bit more, we're going to have to pay a little bit more. But right now, we're even, and that's great news. And we restructure bond deals much like when you restructure your mortgage payments, your mortgage levels. We've saved about $10.8 million over the next 16 years. So we always pay attention to that as well. And we use those dollars and we reinvest them in other projects. You're probably tired of hearing me or hearing about the Col de Coton. The only reason why I say this is this project was all the way through the mountain. $420 million budget, $417 million delivery. So we delivered this project on time and under budget. When you build a bridge and you build the foundations, they come out of the ground, you reduce risk. This is all underground, so the risk is always there as you bore through that mountain. And so we were able to deliver that on budget. Why? Because we did not want to go back to the taxpayers and ask for more money. State Route 4 is 5 construction packages that we started when I first got this job. We started from Pittsburgh, ended up in Antioch, about 10 miles. 5 lanes of concrete pavement. The shoulders inside and outside are concrete as well. It's 6 months late. I have to admit, not all the projects are on time. This was under budget, but it was 6 months late. And the reason why is when you pour concrete, if it's too windy, too hot, or not humid enough, the pavement cracks. And so out of that 10 miles and 5 lanes and inside-outside shoulder, a lot of concrete poured, we pulled 2 panels. So we're 6 months late, but imagine if you would have saw a number of panels pulled along State Route 4, you would have blamed me for not managing that project correctly. And so we do not want to do that. So in this case, we saved a lot of money, but we're 6 months late, so I have to admit that in public. BART extension to Antioch. The reason why I mentioned this project, during the construction, we worked with the city of Pittsburgh, Vice Mayor Pierce, MTC, to find the funding to deliver an intermediate station under construction. Why? Because it was needed. The city of Pittsburgh wanted it, and we funded that. So you have this product right here is exceeding the 6-year estimate from things. There's over 1 million passengers already carried on this. We just got an $855,000 grant from the state of California to study an extension. We prepared the median all the way out to Brentwood to accommodate either a BART extension and or a bus rapid transit extension. So that median is ready to go. So we just got another grant from the state to study what's next. So we also work on trails for multimodal. So this is what City Manager Sobrani was talking about. So we leverage on the capital side on projects that we administer about 3 to 1. So during my time, we had about 400, just a shade under 500 million. We leveraged about $1.5 billion. So that's a pretty good rate of return. So we also plan for the future. So I hear a lot of talk about, hey, we just passed Senate Bill 1. So that's a $5 billion package. That's a 12-cent gas tax increase. Today, gas prices, now with the issues in Saudi Arabia, but a week ago, gas prices were lower than the 2 6-cent increases after they were enacted on gasoline. Gasoline responds to market forces, not to 12 cents in excise tax on gasoline. On the federal side, the last time the excise tax on gasoline was raised was 1993. Bill Clinton was the president, lame duck session. This is what you're guaranteed in Contra Costa County. This is what we're guaranteed. $31.1 million for local agencies split to the 19 cities in the county. Everything else you have to compete for. This is what we get, CCTA, Contra Costa Transportation Authority. We get $2.3 million each year based on a 50-50 split of the state and local partnership program. Now there's a bill that we worked on, Senate Bill 277, that will raise it to 85%, which will raise that 2.3 to 4.6 million. But that's it. So we compete for everything else in Senate Bill 1. We compete against Los Angeles. We compete against San Diego, San Francisco, Oakland, Santa Clara County, all those other. So we have to compete for that. And so none of the other dollars are guaranteed. So about half went to the locals, about half of that $5 billion went to the state. That's Senate Bill 1. $3 toll increase, same thing. About almost 20% of the toll tags reside here in Contra Costa County. Councilmember Pierce, Councilmember Worth, Tim Hale and I went to Sacramento, complained about we should be getting close to $1 billion if you do the math, because it's about a $5 billion funding package over 25 or 30 years. And this is what we ended up that we're guaranteed, about $360 million in Contra Costa projects. That started out at $125 million. And so we really pushed hard to try to get that up to $1 billion. People called us greedy. People call us other names, but we're trying to get our fair share for funding in Contra Costa County because we have a lot of needs here. We have a lot of people. So this is the example here, and the reason why I was messing around with this clicker, City Clerk, is because I wanted to see if this clicker had a red dot, and sure enough it does. So this is the investment, and that's green. So that's level of service D. But these projects here, State Route 4, that portion, 680, 24, and 80, are all in the top 10 congested areas. The number one issue with voters today that we polled is congestion. It's no longer we want potholes filled. We need to deal with this congestion. It's starving us out in our ability to get to work. So the gap remains the same. The population is getting older. I'm getting older. I started out, I was a young man, and after 10 years now I'm an old guy. So let me give you an example. And the only reason why is because an older guy than me is retiring at CCTA, and he started in 1990. So population in our county was 809 people, 809,199 people in 1990. Today it's in 2017, 1,144,863. It's slated to grow by 31% by the end of the proposed measure in 2055. By my math, that's about 1.5 million people. So if you do nothing over the next 25 years, there's going to be a problem here. So you're going to have to make an investment. In 1990, we collected $36 million with that half cent. and now it's 95.3. A half cent is about $100 by my math on a $20,000 worth of taxable purchases, $100 for $20,000. So this is transportation by funding, so most of the regions all in differing kind of emphasis, but they said transportation funding is needed. Those are broken up. You're central. You're probably one of the highest areas. This is the timeline for local funding. It ends in 2055, 35 years. We're going to have 14 years of overlap if this passes. And then here we're going to have a half cent that carries out from 2034. So we're going to all the cities. We need a majority of the cities with a majority of the population to support this measure. Otherwise, we don't put it on the ballot, and that's the end of it. We're going to make a presentation to the county, get it noticed, and then ultimately the county, after the majority of the cities with the majority of the population determine, let's do it, then we'll go back to the city, the Board of Supervisors, and they'll vote yes, hopefully, to place it on the ballot March of 2000 or 2020, next March. I think it's March 3rd. That's the roadmap. So once again, congestion, 680, 80, 24-4. You know the congestion unless you don't ever leave this area. It's highly congested. It's highly congested going down Treat, highly congested going to Ignacio to get to 680. For some reason, people that work in the Silicon Valley leave Clayton at the same time, and they all come home at the same time in the evening. And so 680, I try not to ever take a meeting in southern part of 680 because it takes over an hour to go the 10 miles to our office from San Ramon. So I'd rather just call it in or do Skyping or whatever that is on your computer where you see the other person's face on your computer. And so you also have reduced congestion, make BART cleaner, safer. They want cleaner air. People want cleaner air. Once again, pothole patching is down a ways because of Senate Bill 1 and other funding opportunities. So once again, improve BART cleanliness, synchronized lights. So imagine where you go 45 miles an hour down a major arterial, unimpeded, but the system is adaptive, so the cross streets you can allow pedestrians and bicyclists to cross those streets, and it all works together. That's what we mean by synchronizing traffic lights. Making it more walkable and bikeable. We're putting more people in walking situations biking, yet the fatality rate percentage rise, the highest impact is pedestrians. So we're asking to walk. We need to do something about making it safer. We need an investment to make safer. That's why I like when City Manager Sabranti called me. We found the dollars. You need to do something for the pedestrians. We want to do that as well. Safety is our top priority. So once again, sorry about, for those in the audience, how small it is, but people want us held accountable. We want you to hold us accountable. We want to deal with the worst bottlenecks. Don't just willy-nilly spread the money around with like peanut butter. Fix the issues that plague this county. And then use technology. There's a lot of new technologies that are available to help us. And then leverage state and federal money. The other thing that this doesn't say is your dollars stay in Contra Costa County. They're invested here, they stay here. So this is the expenditure plan. It's a 35-year half-cent sales tax. It will create jobs. We're going to do an analysis that will be out, if not next meeting, the meeting after. We're doing an economic study. What is the value of a 35-year measure that generates $3.6 billion? We're also looking at how does it affect clean air? How does it affect greenhouse gases? That is a law to reduce greenhouse gases and also to reduce vehicle miles traveled. And so Senate Bill 743 requires us to, and you, when you do your developments, to study how the developments impact vehicle miles traveled. So if we can bring jobs closer to Contra Costa County, which we have an allocation of dollars to help, make improvements in and around those job centers, people won't have to drive as far. That's a reverse commute. We like that idea. These are the guiding principles. I think one of the issues that we have this time that we didn't have last time is the transit first policy. So we're going to make the transit operators do an integration study. So when you drop me off at BART, I want a bus to be there to waiting for me so I don't have to wait 25, 30 minutes for a bus because it wastes my time, it wastes your time. So we're going to ask the transit operators to do an integration study. Also, we're funding new service unless there's a downturn in the economy. They don't have enough dollars to maintain their existing services. We're also always held accountable. We want to protect the environment. We still have a commitment to growth, but we want to use technology where we can. So this is kind of the summary, $3.6 million in these buckets. Relieve congestion on highways, interchanges, and major roads. That's a combination between local arterials and the state highway and interstate system. So there's some examples there. Improve transit. About a little over 50% of the dollars are going for transit. and BART, and also walking and riding bicycles, and then $144 million over 35 years for planning and administration. This is kind of breakout, 55% here for transit, 38% for local transit, 6% for BART, 11% for walking and biking, and then the local agencies, all of you, 27%. And because we're doing so well on trying to make improvements on the state highway system, we have a couple choke points. 684 is a very scary intersection, so we're trying to deal with those four legs. We're widening State Route 4 through the interchange. We're an agency, one of the few agencies that actually oversee the design, the environmental clearance, and construction. So the board has given us the approval to manage that risk. We generally save money, as I mentioned before, and we take those savings and we move it on in the next project. But we're one of the few counties that actually oversees construction because of the risk. And so somebody asks all the time, well, how'd you come up with our share in Central and Southwest? We go to the midpoint of the measure based on population. We divvy up based on a very prudent analysis of the future over 35 years. How much is this money going to grow? And then we take that and we divvy it up based on population. So this is how we divvy up the money. And then the sub-regional bodies, like as Commissioner Pierce, Vice Mayor Pierce said, the sub-regional bodies like Transplan, Transpac determine, okay, how do we invest those dollars? What's best for ours? Because in Clayton is a little bit different than El Cerrito, and so there's different needs. So we want to make sure that we get it right. So this is the Central County. That's where we reside here, and this is how the little over $1 billion will be invested over 35 years. It's stated there. I can go into any one of those categories if you'd like, but I'm probably pretty sure that you've heard it already. City of Clayton. So the reason, so for those of you in the audience that say, "Oh, Randy, why are those numbers different?" This is a projection based on 35 years, the midpoint, bringing it back, doing the calculation and rounding. So it's not exactly the same, but if it passes, I guarantee you that both these numbers will be exactly the same. But you get about $270,000 a year. You'll get another $270,000 or $290,000. They'll match. And that's what you can invest on your pavements to keep your the good roads in great shape, and then fix some of those bumpier roads that you have here in Clayton. Or take those dollars and fund safety improvements with those flashing signs. You make that decision here. So these are the benefits, $290,000. We talked a little bit about that. 680, if you travel to 680 or to Highway 4, we're going to try to improve your travel on those major routes. We're looking at you, and once again, make the decision. This isn't set in concrete. This measure proposal has more flexibility than Measure J. We want you to have a good ride on BART. Make sure it's clean, it's safe, you feel comfortable riding BART in Contra Costa County, and we know some people want to ride bicycles and walk. So we have a kind of a medley of approach, but you get to choose here how you want to invest those dollars. Improving transit, $1.98 billion. So this is how it's the 55% is divvied up around Contra Costa County. So it's a major investment in transit. But people have said, hey, I'd take transit if there was more of it and it was serving my area. So we're trying to meet those needs. And these are the benefits countywide and regional-wide. Is traffic congestion is a major issue, air quality. We're getting older, so making sure that people like me, they can't walk as far as fast, we have a suitable and accessible safe transportation option. And these are some of the policy considerations. So I mentioned Vision Zero. We don't want anybody to get killed or injured in our county by vehicular travel while they walk, they ride, or they're riding in a vehicle. And so we're going to try to do something about that. We have a safeguard, so we want to make sure that we're held accountable for our investments. We can explain where the dollars are going. So sorry it took a little bit of time, but I'm willing to answer any questions. And if I can't, I'm sure Vice Mayor Pierce can. So I'm in great shape here tonight. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Any questions? Councilmember Diaz.
I have a couple of thoughts about this. I know that there's a lot of money, it appears to be earmarked to improving the roadways and that. How are you going to incent people to get off those roads and use public transportation?
You do use your mic, Jim.
Your mic.
Not speaking on it, I guess. Anyway, you've heard my question.
Yes, I have.
How do we incent people to get out of their vehicles and use that public transportation?
So there's a couple strategies that we're working on right now. So the first strategy is we're building an express lane, so it's pricing. So a lot of people are concerned, Randy, why are you charging a toll for me as a single occupant vehicle to get in the HOV lane? Well, you can stay in the mixed flow lane and fight congestion all the way down the Silicon Valley and then fight congestion all the way home. But if you're a mother with a young child and they're at daycare and you need to save 20 minutes, you might want to pay a little toll or a toll and get into that HOV lane. So we're trying to start to price. But if you're an HOV, you're free. So we want to, so this is more of an incentive to try to form a carpool so it's free to get in the HOV lane. That's one.
Okay, but is that system working on 680 that has those lanes that you have to have that sensing?
Transponder.
Right, that's what
Yes.
you're talking about. But is that working?
Yes. So I don't have the slide here, but we can make another presentation
Yeah,
or I can
okay.
give you information.
Right.
But there's time savings. The problem is it's too short. It's Rudgear to El Costa. And now we have 680 southbound under construction from the Benicio Martinez Bridge all the way to Rudgear southbound. The problem is that El Costa, Alameda County now has programmed a project to continue the HOV lane all the way to the snow grade. So you'll have over 30 miles of HOV lane all the way down. So we want to incentivize you to form a carpool. The next thing we did is we made an application to United States Department of Transportation for an innovation award or grant. And our proposal is a mobility on demand platform. So you take your smartphone and you have different options for buses. You have options for BART. You have options for scooters. You have options for electric bike share, car share, and Uber and Lyft. All that information goes into an electronic platform like your cell phone. Out comes scheduling, trip planner, incentives, and rewards. So one of the problems that we have now is when you travel multimodal and let's say you get on a scooter and you go from Clayton down to Ignacio, I don't recommend it, but you go down on an electric scooter all the way down to Ignacio and you get to the Walnut Creek BART station.
All right.
You have to pay with a credit card or your app. You get on BART, now you need Clipper.
Clipper, right, that's...
Okay, so then when you're done with that, now you get into a car share, now you need a transponder to get onto the HOV lane. So you're frustrated. So the other piece in that proposal, it's an $8 million grant. It's a $17.6 million program. Our first phase is to roll it out on 680, one of the most heavily congested routes in the Bay Area. Then we want to roll it out to our county, and ultimately we want to roll it out to the entire region in year 3. It's uniform payment also, and incentives and rewards. So we're looking at technology that a lot of people, when you take if you look on BART today, when you see everybody, about 85% of the people are doing what? They're looking at their phone. So imagine people aren't looking at their TVs anymore, and so they're going to advertise. All that advertising is no good anymore because nobody's watching TV. They watch Netflix or they watch something else. So now what we're proposing is taking a look at, so when you're on that cell phone and you're looking at advertising and you're dialed into an application, and we'll tell you what, hopefully if we come up with a partnership, you get money for looking at the advertisement, the transit company gets money, and also a portion of it goes to pay the software company. So we're looking at all options to try to get people excited, maybe that's not the right word, amenable to actually go into another mode of transportation. That's the rewards and incentives. That's what we're trying to do.
So you're going to incent by rewarding the person. Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Well, I mean, part of this has already been answered. The people that I've been talking to in the citizenry here in Clayton, I think you have a bit of a PR problem. And so I guess my question would be, how are you going to get the word out that what you're doing is the money? For instance, questions I've had, is the money going to be staying in Contra Costa County? How soon is this going to happen? We spent all this money back in '88. I haven't seen any of this. And so I think you're fighting a little PR problem here. Are you going to be able to get the word out to the citizenry that this is going to be a benefit to them?
Absolutely. So we go wherever we're asked. So any Rotary Club, one of our problems is we're the best kept secret in Contra Costa County. Nobody knows who we are, and yet we try to go out and talk to the media at every opportunity and talk about the value of the sales tax measure. So the board has allowed staff, our team, to go out when appropriate and talk about what's happening. So we literally travel all over the county talking to groups. We always hire a campaign team. Now, I don't campaign. I can't campaign as a government official, but we've hired a campaign team that's going to go out and do all the signage, do the phone banks, do all the things that we need to do to make sure that people understand what's in the measure, what happened before. Because as I mentioned early on, we're one of the best kept secrets in Contra Costa County because they think we're the bus company, and we're not the bus. Nothing against the county connection, but we're not the bus company. We're an organization that delivers transportation projects and programs, and we're very proud of what we do. And we think we do it and I put our team up against any other team in the other eight counties here in the Bay Area. For size, we contract out 95% of our work. We have very little, if any, rework when we do that. Why? Because when I come to you and talk to you, I can tell you that we do things right. I'm not trying to hide anything. And you can go look at any one of our projects. And so when they say nothing with Measure C delivered State Route 4 West. So State Route 4 West used to be an undivided 2-lane road where people were getting killed regularly by head-on. So they split the alignment. That funded, and they extended BART out to Pittsburgh Bay Point. Those are probably the two bigger projects. But Measure J has done a lot of great things because, as City Manager Ronnie said, we leverage other people's money, mostly the state through Proposition 1B. So we got a lot of money to finish projects that would never have been done. The Caldecott Tunnel would never have been built. They still would have been doing bore shifts. You remember back then. They used to do up to half a dozen bore shifts a day because I used to work for Caltrans. And I used to be the district director actually in this district. And they used to love doing those bore switches. The more overtime, they just really liked doing that. But the public did not like waiting for those bore shifts. And it just drives people nuts. And so those are the investments that we've made, but we could do a better job getting out. But we only have 20 employees, and so we try to get out where we can.
Thank you. So one quick comment or question. So when we talk about, spending it locally, I think transportation is kind of regional, too. So it's hard to just stay in Clayton all day. And I think a lot of us travel on Ignacio Valley. A lot of us get on the highway. So I think to some extent it's regional as well. And I think you mentioned actually in the last presentation you gave at the mayor's conference that Ignacio Valley Road has 70,000 cars per day, which is a huge amount of cars on a daily basis. But so my question is, there's some aspect of wanting to make sure that the money does stay local and it does go into improvements. Can you talk a little bit about BART? So I think 6% was allocated to BART. So how do you cooperate with BART itself to make sure that there's whatever you're doing, where the monies are going and how it's actually spent so that it goes towards things that would improve people, for example, in Contra Costa County?
So we're a couple train sets shy on the E-BART extension to Antioch. So there's $28 million identified to buy 2 more train sets because we have people left on the platform. So that runs from Antioch to Pittsburgh, back and forth. It stays in Contra Costa County. It never leaves. The other dollars are identified for access to BART. And it could be improving fare evasion gates, which then means more revenue. It stays in Contra Costa County. We might have access wayfinding signs to make people that aren't familiar with how to get onto BART, they're scared about getting on BART, better information on how to get to BART, where to park, how to park, and those kinds of things. And you could use the dollars for parking as well. And that's a decision at a sub-regional level, and then it comes to our board, of which Vice Mayor Pierce has been on the board for over 25 years. And so they have asked and made sure that every dollar is spent in Contra Costa County. The issue that we had last time is if we buy BART cars, the regular BART cars, they don't stay in Contra Costa County. And so what we did is we put a requirement that's still in this existing expenditure plan. It's called a maintenance of effort. So where BART takes dollars out of their fare revenue and they invest it in capital, continue to do that, or we're not investing either. So you have to continue to make those investments if we're going to make our investments. So our board members were laser focused in on making sure that maintenance of effort language was very tight so that BART would do what they said they were going to do. Not that we don't trust BART, but the language is very specific on the maintenance of effort. So if you take a look at that, you'll see that in there. So once they make an investment, they can't redirect because we're filling the gap.
Okay.
Good?
Great. Yeah, thank you. Then one other comment and then a question. So I know, for example, SB1 monies, those are great, but I think there's also now concern that more and more people are using hybrid cars, electric cars, so therefore the gas I think those gas tax monies are actually on a future decline. So I think the state level they're actually thinking about other ways of taxing that as opposed to gas tax, but that's a little bit separate. But so if this does go on the ballot, I think the voters will ultimately decide whether or not to approve it. Is it a 2/3 vote? It is. Okay. Yeah. So.
Yeah, you're absolutely correct. What I failed to mention, that $31.1 million is today. Yeah. It's going to go down ultimately because as more people transition into more fuel-efficient vehicles and electric vehicles, your dollars are going down. The other issue that you need to think about is as the oil rises, the cost of doing maintenance on roadways is going up. So your CPI, your cost index has gone up, and your buying power erodes. So on the federal side, imagine you haven't gotten a raise since 1993, and yet you want to fix your roads, or you want to buy commodities. If you haven't gotten a raise since 1993, your buying power is severely eroded. It's amazing we do what we want. So in California, before the 4 counties got passed and LA had their big sales tax increase, about 12% of the dollars came from the federal government in California. 23% came from the state, 65% came from sales tax. And the monies are invested here, and you make the decision on where those dollars are invested through a more flexible expenditure plan. And so the problem a lot of times is you're looking out, and I think my crystal ball is really good, but it's lousy in that I know I'm not going to be right. But imagine trying to predict what road needs work in 2045. It's and depending on who moves where or where the developments go or what the changes in demographics are, your services will change. That's why the expenditure plan has more flexibility to deal with that in the future. So I won't be here. I know that already because I'm getting older. But some of you will, and you want to make sure that we're making the right investments in the future. That's what the flexibility does. It gives the opportunity to make the right investments for the right time because things are going to change.
Thank you.
Do you have anything?
I do, but I can wrap up. Go ahead.
Go ahead.
I'm going to answer a few questions.
Sure. So I had some kind of questions all over the board, so they're not really that organized. Hopefully that's okay. Is there a potential that these funds could be commandeered by the state government in any way? I know that like with SB1, the governor had made noise about threatening transportation dollars if other unrelated things weren't done. Is there a potential for that with this as well?
No.
No potential?
No. Local dollars, there's something catastrophic happened, and I don't see any way that the local agencies would allow the governor to sign a bill that says, okay, all the sales tax dollars in California now are going to be redirected to the government and let them make the decision. What you have to think about, though, is a lot of the sales tax dollars are used to leverage other dollars to make improvements on the state highway system because while Ignacio Valley Road carries 70,000 people, Interstate 680 carries 250,000 people a day. And a lot of people use that interchange to interchange as a local road to bypass some of the other local roads within. And so investments are being made for the state, and that's what upsets us sometimes when we make investments on the state system and we don't get responsiveness from my old team, Caltrans or others, that help us make decisions quickly because time is money.
Okay. So in the past, when you had that, the bar graph, it showed that, Measure J started when C ended, and now we're planning to do overlap. Can you kind of talk about why that is? It seems like a shift in strategy.
Well, the reason why we're looking at the measure now is because we've funded, we've delivered, or have under construction 85% of the capital projects identified in Measure J. That's what started this. And so because we've accelerated the construction of projects like the Caldecott Tunnel, we could have saved up, but it's much like a mortgage when you buy a house. You have two choices. You can save up money, and when your kids are gone and they're gone to college, you buy the house because you saved the money to buy the house and there's no memories. Or you take out a mortgage, you buy your house now and your kids grow up in the house, and at the end of 30 years, in theory, you pay for your house. So what happened is, as you look into the future, we didn't have dollars to do the much important projects like Interstate 684 and others, and so we took a look at, we started a poll, we started to ask the question, would you be willing as a taxpayer, do we need more? If you don't think we need any more, as population grows, then we wouldn't do it. And so we were surprised at the findings that people are saying, yes, we're mired in congestion. Who's dealing with the congestion? And then how do we deal with this? We need to fix it. And so that's what started this. Is 42.5% of Measure J is identified for the capital program. The other are formula-based programs like bus service, ferry service, those kinds of things. And so that's what started this, and we started taking a look at the polling results, and so we put this proposal together.
Okay. What kind of requirements does this ultimately put on cities themselves? Like, I think one of the things that I saw out there was complete streets policy, urban. I'm not familiar with what those are. So can you kind of talk about what requirements this would impose upon cities should this come to pass?
What I failed to mention in my analogy of the funding package, 12% from the feds, 23% from the state, and 65% for local. When we go to Washington, D.C., we look for regulation reform. So the feds have 12% of the dollars, but when you federalize a project, $1 federal money, you got 80% of the rules. It's very, very difficult to spend federal money. So when a city like Clayton, if you're going to do an overlay, the last thing City Manager Sobranti wants to do is put $1 of federal money and go through all the federal requirements. And so in this document, there are requirements for the city on a checklist basis, but they're just based on law. So when we say you have to have a complete streets, MTC requires you to have a complete street policy. You're going to do it anyway, so just check the box saying we have one. And what a complete street means is you care about the safety of the pedestrians and the bicyclists. Where appropriate, you're going to look for opportunities to make sure there's a separated area for bicyclists. It's well lit. The signing is nice. You slow traffic down and make it more amenable for biking through your downtown center, which I would imagine all of you want to do because people want to walk around, have dinner, go to your concert, which I've done, and they don't want to get run over. So that's the idea. So where we say you need to have a VMT, we're looking at a vehicle miles traveled mitigation program. That's required by Senate Bill 743. That's law. So all we're trying to do in that plan is reiterate the laws that you have to do, because when you pass a measure, you have to get buy-in from all facets of the community, not just the taxpayers, not just the cities, but the environmentalists, the contractors, the workers. Everybody has to agree on what's in this expenditure plan. And that's what we achieved a couple of meetings ago, where people came out and they said, we like this plan. We'll recommend to our boards for endorsement. That's why. So we're not trying to be a federal government and say, you're going to have to do 97 things in order to qualify for measure money. No, that's not our goal at all. What we're trying to do is ensure that the law is met. That's all. And that's the best way I can explain that. But there are rules in here, but it's just a checkbox. We're actually trying to put the checklist that your staff fills out in order to get your return to source dollars. We're actually trying to put that online to go paperless. So all you do is electronically check it, and it'll be a lot faster and a lot easier.
Okay, that's great. Talking about return to source, what would be the lowest amount that a city could see returned? Because when I read the plan, it seemed like all the return to source talked about at a county level, or like countywide. So I'm not sure. Is there like a specific return to city? What's that function look like?
So it's based on population and lane miles. And so what we do is we go to, Caltrans has an HPMS, like Highway Performance Measurement System. So they have a database of the lane miles in your city and the population, and then we calculate how much dollars you get back. So currently it's about $270,000. I can tell you exactly how much it was. It was $296,364 that's going to be, it was paid in 12 of 2018. So it's based on population and lane miles. So every city manager looks at every other buddy's lane miles, and somebody brought to our attention that one of the other cities, I won't say their name, Orinda, that their lane miles were way out of whack. And then we looked in the database. Sure enough, they hadn't grown by 14%. They hadn't built one lane mile in X amount of years, and so we had to bring that back. But it's a self-policing kind of a situation.
So I guess my last question is, in 2016, there was a similar plan that was put on the ballot, Measure X. How is this different than Measure X?
So this plan, there's a couple things. One, the laws have changed, so the kind of the requirements have changed as far as reporting. So there's VMT reduction, complete streets. There's a focus more on transit. So this plan is more transit focused to try to reduce greenhouse gases and get better clean air results. So it's got a little more transit. It's got a little more flexibility. So normally what happened in Measure J is when we go out and we get $50 million, we got a $50 million direct allocation from MTC to build State Route 160, State Route 4 interchange, because in the old days when I started here at CCTA, I lived in Elk Grove, I came across the Antioch Bridge. In order to get to Brentwood, you had two choices. One, you weave through Clayton, or two, you stay on State Route 4, you go to the Hillcrest, you make a U-turn, and then go back into Brentwood. That was the only way you could get in Brentwood. And so somebody came into my office when I was in Sacramento, and they said, hey, your civil engineers don't know what you're doing because I got to make a U-turn at Hillcrest. And I didn't know what they were talking about. I thought it was Southern California, Brentwood. And so I was missing an appointment with Mayor Taylor at Brentwood, and I had to make the U-turn. I go, I get it. So we ended up getting a direct allocation from MTC to build that interchange. And we finished it to try to make sure that, and I forgot how we started this conversation.
I was asking about Measure X because that was a recent ballot initiative that didn't pass.
That's right, by 3 percentage points.
Yeah.
So this has more flexibility. So you can choose what project, and when you save money, it goes back not into the interchange category or major freeway, but it goes back into the region, sub-region, to be able to allocate it for other projects like that. So you're not stuck to delivering a specific project, but a project type. Does that make sense?
It does make sense. I guess so. What I'm looking at is that so that's not really a question, so I'm not going to ask you that. You mentioned earlier about the HOV and the express lanes. Is there evidence that shows that actually reduces congestion overall? I know it would for the people who use those lanes, obviously. But I mean, when the carpool lanes first came, there was a very clear connection between the intent of the program and what was being done. If you encourage carpool, you get the lane, that's great. And then at some point it became low emission vehicles also got access. It kind of diluted. And then now anyone who wants to buy into it can buy into it. And so ultimately, I think the way I'm looking at it is it's reducing the number of lanes available and allowing people with money to buy their way into a faster lane. And so I'm not sure if there's evidence that shows that it ultimately reduces congestion overall. It'll probably help people who are more affluent. So I'm just curious if there's any information on that.
So there was a famous professor at Cal Poly San Luis Obispo where City Manager Sobrante and I attended. His name was Ed Sullivan. And when they built SR 91 in Orange County, they had the same issue. Only the rich can take the HOV lane, express lane. Not true. When they did the study, majority of the people that used it, and this has been probably 15 years ago, but the most prevalent user of the lane were people in the trade. So if you mow a lawn and you want to get that extra, because it's got high levels of congestion in Southern California, if you can pay a toll, save 20 minutes, and do another lawn mowing, it might be worth that $10, $8, whatever it is. A lot of the users are mothers or dads picking up their kids from daycare because for every minute you're late, they charge you a fine. I don't know what, my daughter's almost 30 now, but I think it was maybe $10 a minute or something like that. So it might be worth saving those extra minutes to get in there. And then what happens is a traffic system management strategy, and it's a choice. So if you're a single occupant vehicle, and by the way, I fought the Pavley bill, the HO getting lead and clean vehicles into the HOV lanes because we didn't have a problem selling hybrid vehicles in those days. So when I worked for Caltrans, I remember I was in the governor's office arguing about that, but it is what it is. So it's a choice. So if you're a single occupant vehicle in the mixed flow, you're kind of late for a meeting, you have a choice. You can deal with the mixed flow, or if the HOV lane has capacity, you can pay a toll as long as you have a switchable toll tag. Then you put it, you get in there and you get charged a toll and hopefully you make your meeting. Or you stay here. But when you leave the mixed flow lane, you create a space. So your mixed flow lane, depending on the congestion levels, could actually speed up a little bit. And your HOV lane may slow down a bit, but it's going to save you some time. So the other proposal in conjunction on 680 with the HOV express lane is currently you have buses leaving Walnut Creek going down to Bishop Ranch. They have two choices. They can stay in the slow lane and go inch along, or they weave over the 4 lanes of Interstate 680 and they get in the HOV lane for 8 miles, but they don't go 55, 65, 70, whatever it is that most people in the HOV lane want to travel. They go 45. So that's called the snail effect. So they're stuck behind this bus. You're stuck behind this. Hey, what's going on here? I'm in the HOV lane. So the proposal that we have is that instead of doing that, we're going to open up the outside shoulder, majority of its auxiliary lanes that we just finished. We finished 3 sets down by Danville, San Ramon area. They're concrete. Put the buses out on the outside shoulder during peak hour under 35 miles an hour. So when the congestion is so bad, speeds drop on the main line below 35, the bus, instead of going across this way, across 4 lanes, they just bloop, go out in the shoulder, and they travel along about 30 miles an hour. They've got technology looking ahead. We're going to put ramp meters in, holding that on-ramp traffic, so let the buses clear. So the buses stay on schedule. You might get more people in those buses, which means more space on that mixed flow and or the HOV lane. So so we're going the next step. And that's what's funded in that measure.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I think ultimately my question wasn't necessarily just a segregation between affluent and not, but it was just an ultimate reduction of available supply. And so I think if you're reducing supply, overall you're going to have an increased amount of time dispersed over many people, and you'll have a concentrated benefit over a few people who pay.
No, you have the benefit of the people using the HOV lane anyway, right?
Yeah.
The biggest complaint that we get is off-peak. Why in the heck do we still have the HOV lane in effect? It used to be free. Well, in Los Angeles, it's HOV 24 hours a day. Why? Because traffic is so bad. And so if we do nothing on Interstate 680, we have 20 minutes of delay now. It's slated to go to 100 minutes by 2040. Can you imagine 5 times the level of congestion on 680? You're going to move. You're going to say, that's it. I can't work in Silicon Valley or wherever. No matter how much they pay me, I'm going to have to live in Modesto or somewhere. I can't do it. And so you lose that quality of life. And we do not want that to happen. That's why we're proposing this with flexibility in the funding to deal with it in the future. What is the right investments to make? Because we don't know. Everybody might move and go somewhere else, or we may bring a big job center here. Everybody works there. Let's say Amazon or somebody came here and everybody quit working down in Silicon Valley and they all moved here. That'd be great. We get BMT reduction. We get greenhouse gas cleanup. We get a reduction of congestion on 680. But if that doesn't happen, then what are we going to do? That's what we're trying to come up with a plan. We think we have a good plan. It'll leverage other monies. If you don't have money, it's very, very difficult to leverage somebody else's money. That's our proposal. It's a traffic system management strategy on the interstate there on 680. We think we have a 7-pronged approach to try to deal with that congestion, and we have the US DOT backing a portion of that. We're going to announce that we've got another grant from US DOT to test some technology along Interstate 680, so we're very proud of that. You'll probably read about that tomorrow. So we're not just sitting here trying to get money this way. We're going out and trying to get money any way we can, and we're pretty good at it because we have a good relationship with US DOT. I know it's a different administration, but we can go into the Secretary's office, have a good conversation about what we're trying to accomplish here in Contra Costa County, and they know who we are. And that's a good thing.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Vice Mayor Pierce?
Thank you. Thank you, Randy. There's one program that you didn't really talk about a lot, and that's the Major Roads Program, which is another way of getting kind of a return to source. This is something we haven't done specifically before, and I think it's something that you would like to hear about.
Yes, so sorry about that. But I did mention that there's more money for local roads than there are for state highway system. And so the idea is flexibility. So you choose. Let's say, for whatever reason, people that live in Clayton want to go down Ignacio Valley Boulevard and or Treat Boulevard. They just can't get there. The commute is getting worse. It takes you an hour. Not that I know this personally from somebody calling me, why is it taking me an hour to go all the way out to Interstate 680? What's going on in your way? But imagine a day when you can make a decision to repurpose your major arterial to, let's say, do a bus-only lane in the morning, go into 680, and a bus-only lane coming back. If you want to do something like that and change the geometry of your road, you're going to have dollars to do that. And generally, return to source and or your excise tax on gasoline is probably not going to fund that. But if you start some of that and it's a pilot-based project, you might be able to get somebody else to invest in those projects. While you're doing that, if you're going to make improvements like complete streets to your major arterials or your arterials, you're going to be able to deal with the pavement too. So that's going to leverage that 270. You're going to get more money to deal with the pavement because we're not going to fund a project that only deals with the infrastructure on top to guide people on a certain lane if the pavement is bad. And so there's a benefit there not only on futuristic ways of managing traffic on a local arterial with flexibility You make the decision on what projects, but there's an opportunity to deal with the pavement as well. So when I first got here, and all of you, not you personally, but your city councils all said, we need to do something about Ignacio Valley. We need to find money to rehabilitate that road because it's starting to crack up and fall apart, and there's a lot of traffic on it. And so we're trying to find ways of helping you deal with the traffic heading that direction and then this direction in the evening based on what you want to do, because there's an allocation of a large sum of money on the major arterials to do that, and also return to source.
Thank you. I just want to make a couple of other comments. CCTA has one of the best records of on time, on budget production of projects and programs and innovative programs. We also are partners on the Momentum Station for automatic vehicle testing and testing safety programs that really work. And some of those things are things we're already starting to put into place around the county. And the growth management program that we have that we're beefing up in this expenditure plan is the only one in California. Nobody else does this. And we did it to hold cities accountable, to make them have to think about planning for the future, so that if you approve a large project, you have to make sure that that project pays for the impacts it creates. Because when we started Measure C back in '88, there had been a huge boom of housing production, particularly in East County, and none of the transportation impacts were taken care of. So we were making up for lost time. And we would hear from our colleagues in East County that they were stuck in the traffic that was created by that huge housing boom. So now what we do is we require any development to pay its own way and to pay for the impacts created by that. And one of the first big projects that was impacted by that was actually Oakhurst. And it set a model for the county. And interjurisdictionally, we had the Oakhurst project had to pay for transportation impacts to the city of Walnut Creek and the city of Concord for improvements to the roadways that were created by the traffic that was generated by the Oakhurst project. And it's worked really, really well. And I can actually tell you which projects were paid for through that mitigation fee. But that was sort of the whole concept of growth management. And so we're beefing that up just a little bit. There are some rules already on the books that we have to comply with. We're just making sure we're keeping track of all of that. The other thing I wanted to mention was, and I hate to correct my executive director here, but I'm going to. He made a comment about hiring a campaign team. CCTA does not hire the campaign team. CCTA has nothing to do with a campaign. There is a campaign team in place. It has been formed by private businesses who are putting up money to sponsor this project and this program, but CCTA has nothing to do with any of that.
Did I say that, Attorney?
You did.
Yeah, you did.
Oh, sorry.
You did. And
Yeah.
so
I thought I said a campaign team was hired.
no, you said we've hired, yeah. So,
Okay, sorry.
You're going to get
You're
yourself
right.
in trouble.
yeah, no, that's okay. That's why I really wanted to correct it.
Thank you.
Because you will see Randy and other staff members doing informational talks about this on their own time. You will see them going to groups like city council meetings or Rotary groups, but it's all informational. They will never ask you to vote for this measure. But there will be others who will be doing that. And they will be mostly private industry and things like that. But CCTA does not pay for the campaign in any way, shape, or form. That is actually being led by one of the largest businesses in the county, and it's being headed up by the owner of Bishop Ranch. So somebody who has a real real interest in making sure traffic keeps flowing and people can get to their jobs safely and quickly and efficiently. So
That's what I
anyway.
meant to say.
I forgot. I have one
Go
more.
ahead.
Is there any way we can get, if this were to come to pass, what kind of assurances do we get, like for certain specific projects? You talked a lot about Unedited Valley Road. It's terrible. I think Walnut Creek throttles the light at the end of Oak Grove to limit traffic, and so in here synchronizing lights. Like, what kind of ability would this type of expenditure plan have to ensure Unedited Valley Road isn't as terrible?
So this goes back to Commissioner Vice Mayor Pierce's comment about major arterials and my comment about flexibility. This is not an earmarked plan. This has got flexibility. So what happens is you have a big problem regionally on Ignacio Valley and or Treat, whatever the major arterial is. You come to the sub-regional body, in this case Transpac, and you make a, through your city manager, your city engineer, you make a pitch for, we've got a proposal, we want to deal with the traffic, we want to synchronize the lights using adaptive signal technology. We're going to make sure that the buses are on preemption, whatever it is. You make that pitch to Transpac. Transpac, the group, will say, that's the best proposal that we've had because we have money in the major arterials to fund that. And then they go to the board, and then the board ultimately votes on that. And I failed to mention this. We're changing the way we have an oversight committee, it's a citizens advisory committee that does the analysis of all of the return to source documents and determine has the city done exactly what they're said and they're supposed to do. And that is forwarded through the planning committee and ultimately into the board for approval. We're changing the dynamic of the oversight committee to you have a member from each of the 4 subregions trying to get equity. You have 1 county supervisor, and then you have 12 members that are nominated and approved by the board from various groups. Is that the right term? Thank you. So you'll have a bigger oversight committee that's more engaged to make sure we're doing the things that we should be doing that's in that plan.
But could, like, the city of Walnut Creek, couldn't they just say, no, we're not doing that?
Well, I mean, anybody can say, no, you're not doing that, but ultimately...
Because that's what it seems like they're doing now when they're throttling the lights, right?
I've had this conversation. Is they're metering you at a certain road because they want to keep the side streets open. But what they're also doing, what Walnut Creek is doing that's pretty impressive, at least to me, is that they're monitoring the flow of traffic on Ignacio Valley Road using sensors. And they can give you advice on what streets to go on in order to make sure that your commute is still the same. So the technology is getting better and better to make instantaneous, if not instantaneous, but close to instantaneous decision on how many cars can go on this route and how many should you divert somewhere else. And so pretty soon it's like Waze. Why is your neighborhood getting more crowded on an obscure road that nobody ever went to? Because you can save 2 minutes or a minute or 30 seconds. So Waze it's got capacity, it's balancing the transportation system. That's what's happening with technology. You need adaptive signals to control where those flows are going so that you as a city council member can determine how much traffic you want on certain streets. So what they're trying to do on Treat is force you out into another route onto Highway 4. So once Highway 4, if you're close to that, you might want to take 4 instead of going down Treat.
If I could just supplement Randy's answer on this particular question. Your question is exactly right. How do we guarantee that we get those funds? And I don't think Randy's offering up a guarantee here. No. But I can tell you from personal experience, when you bring a project to the Transportation Authority and you lay out how you are helping to make that project come to a reality, they are a great partner. The best example I can give is the Pittsburgh BART station that Randy mentioned earlier. The city of Pittsburgh put up a share of the cost of that, but the city of Pittsburgh at that time did not have anywhere close to paying for the whole project. The Transportation Authority stepped up, BART stepped up, other partners came together, and the project happened. Could never have happened without that partnership. But that required that city to put something into the mix to make it happen. In this case, we're not just talking about a benefit that would be for the city of Clayton. It would be for the city of Clayton, the city of Concord, even the city of Walnut Creek could benefit by improvements on Ignacio Valley Road. And keep in mind also that Concord and Clayton kind of jointly are aware of metering that's happening on the east side that are holding back folks who are commuting from East County.
Yeah, I mean,
there's more than one advocate to make that project happen.
Because if I'm the city of Walnut Creek, I think my interest is in limiting traffic there severely, and there's no benefit for allowing more. So I don't know why. Like, if I want Ignacio to go faster, I need Walnut Creek to come to heel, right? But I don't see why they would do that, no matter what happens here.
That's really where the governance works, is that it may take a few meetings to get people to understand the benefits, but if you're stuck here and nobody's getting through Walnut Creek to have commerce, then nobody's spending any money, pretty soon the economy tanks. And so that's what I think what City Manager Sobrani is saying. If you have a good idea and it makes a lot of sense, staff at CCTA would be happy to go talk to our board members about, this makes a lot of sense. In his case, he brought a third of the funding. MTC brought a third. Bart never has dollars, and then we brought a third. That's how so they had their own allocation of dollars. It made a lot of sense. They had the numbers that showed how many more riders would take BART and get off of State Route 4, reduce greenhouse gases, reduce VMT, all those other things.
That sounds great, and I think, if that were to come to pass with this program, that would be a great benefit to the residents of Clayton.
Yes.
And I just don't think it's a question of money. I think that it's just not in their interest to allow that traffic. And if it were us, I would throttle the traffic from Brentwood. There's no reason to use a throughput for Clayton from Brentwood. All the development in Brentwood causes an impact to our roads and our traffic. I would throttle it right there, right at the edge, and and make it very difficult so that you encourage Highway 4 utilization. And I think that same rationale applies on the through routes from Clayton out through Walnut Creek. And it's not about money at that point. There's no amount of money that will make that valuable to them. So anyways, that was just a comment, not really a question.
Vice Mayor Pierce.
Well, as our representative on TransPac, let me dispute that a bit. Actually, in a conversation we had in another venue, several of us at TransPac were talking about what would we propose for this major roads category. And we talked about Treat and we talked about Ignacio. The Walnut Creek representative to TransPac said they would love a project like that. They're already working with technology to make Ignacio Valley flow more smoothly. And I don't know if you've noticed, I certainly haven't. I've told Walnut Creek this. Once you clear that metering light, which does cycle better now than it used to, you can flow in the peak hour to the freeway, usually hitting only 2 stoplights max.
Yeah, it's pretty good once you get past that.
Well, it is, and it's planned that way. Now, the project that we're talking about, those of us on TransPac standing around after a meeting going, gosh, what would we do? Are saying, what would it be like if we could take what used to be Highway 24 off of what's now Highway 24? Because if you don't know, Ignacio Valley Road, Kirker Pass, and Railroad are still on the books as the official Highway 24. But what if you could take the lights all the way from the waterfront in Pittsburgh to the freeway entrance in Walnut Creek and coordinate those so that everybody traveled smoothly? Right now, we have a metering light at Clearbrook, metering the traffic from East County on Kirker Pass, just like we're metered at Oak Grove. If we could make the traffic flow like it currently is doing, or even better than it's currently doing in Walnut Creek, because of technology, and you could do that on that entire span, now that would be a major roads project. And it's going to take technology more than pavement to do that. It's also going to take cooperation, which is one of the requirements for the growth management program, is to participate in those interjurisdictional collaborative programs. And I can tell you that TransPAC and TransPlan, which is East County, have met on a fairly regular basis to work on some of those interjurisdictional issues. And we've talked about it casually and said, we got to get those back going again, because there are some changes in technology that we could start to implement. And when we have the dollars to leverage, we can actually go to DC and get the money to match those. And, I've been on some of those trips to DC. It's kind of a forced march when you're following Randy around, because he knows everybody, and people stop him in the hallway and say, what are you here for? And we talk about what we're there for, and son of a gun, a few months later, we usually get a letter that says, yep, you got the money. So it's really an effective way to, they're impressed, because not many places in the United States use self-help dollars. They just don't. They want 100% funding. And when we can come to the table with a third or half of the money, they're more than happy to write a check to us. So when we can be innovative, and they're excited about innovation, we stand a good chance of getting the dollars we need to do those kinds of projects that nobody else has ever done before.
Great.
They do them in Europe, so we can do them here.
Great, thank you. Let's keep moving forward. Thank you very much for the presentation and answering all of our questions, but please hang around in case we have any more. But let me open up for public comment. I do have one speaker card from Ms. Danaway. And if anyone else would like to comment, you can certainly speak after her. You have 3 minutes, Ms. Danaway.
Ann Stanaway, 1553 Haviland Place, Clayton, California. Right. I am here to introduce you to my friend and companion, Rocinante. Rocinante is the name of Don Quixote's horse. I am on another quixotic mission. Okay, Rocinante and I try to get to the meetings here. Well, what happens when we try to get to the meetings? Well, the sidewalks have been fixed. But the pavement, the street pavement, is awful. The street pavement is actually an obstruction. Since the streets have been repaved in Clayton by the lovely Transportation Authority, I can't get across the streets. I have to actually get off Rocinante. I have to actually pull Rocinante over the bump and then proceed across the street. Now, I could, if I wanted to, come herring down the sidewalk, fly over the street on Rocinante, but I might just cause a collision then. I'm just saying, you guys exist in a bubble. You need to actually look at what impacts everybody, not just you two-legged, athletic types that can actually walk back and forth to places. You have to actually consider Americans with disabilities. And I am here with that voice, with Americans for Disabilities. Now, you guys live in a bubble. I'm going to burst it. Where the rubber meets the road, Rocinante and I cannot get to the meeting safely because the roads are paved unsafely. Thank you.
Great, thank you. I don't have any other speaker cards. If anyone else would like to come forward. Seeing none, we'll close public comment and bring it back to the council. Any further discussion? Seeing none, I would certainly be happy to make a motion. I'd make a motion, and this is a long one, but to adopt the resolution of support for the countywide imposition of 1/2 of 1% sales tax to fund transportation improvements in Contra Costa County, and adopting the proposed transportation expenditure plan, conditionally amending the growth management plan, which includes attachment A, which is in our resolution, the principles of agreement for establishing the urban limit line in the Measure J TEP to match that found in the 2020 TEP. So that's my motion.
I would second that.
Is there any other discussion?
I would just say that I think given the level of taxation that we have on our citizens already, and that the results of Measure X, which was a similar in nature bill that did not pass, and the city of Clayton did not come close to the Ultimately, I think it came close to 2/3, but in the city of Clayton proper, it did not even come close. So I would be opposed.
Okay. Any other comment?
And the people that I've been talking to over the last several days are in favor of this. I'm going to vote in favor of it, with the caveat that the PR campaign has got to be put into place so that people understand that the money that they're spending is going to be remaining here and is going to be used for the things that are important to Clayton.
Okay. So on that motion, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? So Councilwoman Bawan opposing, that passes 4-1. That takes us to our next item, which is council discussion regarding the Clayton Valley Charter High School support of renewal. And I think, Mr. Subranti, do you want to start up? And I think we have others here to speak as well.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just a quick presentation. As you mentioned, we'll be considering a resolution supporting and urging the Contra Costa County Board of Education's approval of the renewal of the charter for Clayton Valley Charter High School. Just a brief overview of what the report includes. After receiving a unanimous support from the Clayton City Council back in 2011, the County Board of Education approved the charter of an initial term beginning in July of 2012 and eventually being extended through June of 2020. Some of the highlights of what's been accomplished over the past 8 years include increasing the overall enrollment of the school from 1,850 to 2,200 students, outperforming the county graduation rate of 88% by achieving a 97% graduation rate, increasing the percentage of graduates going to a 2 or 4 year college from 81 to 91%, increasing the percentage of graduates deemed prepared for college and careers from 45 to 65%, expanding careers and technical education pathways to include sports medicine, computer science, culinary arts, and auto shop, expanding community partnerships by serving as the host for Clayton Valley Little League, Clayton Valley Junior Football, and CYO track and basketball, and then expanding the number of academies offered by the school to include arts and public services, medical careers, engineering, and digital arts. Staff is recommending support of this item after council provides an opportunity for public comment. Prior to maybe public comment, you might consider offering Jim Scheibel, the Executive Director of Clayton Valley High School, Clayton Valley Charter High School, the opportunity to speak on this item. And with that, I'll turn it back to you, Madam Mayor.
That'd be great. So, Mr. Scheibel, do you want to give a little bit of a overview as well?
All right, good evening. If I read the agenda right, I might be the last thing between you and a very quick exit back to your closed session, so I'll try to be brief. I'm not sure about the item after mine, but it looks innocuous, although I'm new to Clayton, so maybe it's not. So Mayor Catalano and Vice Mayor Pierce and council members Diaz, Juan, and Wolf, thank you so much for having me here tonight, as well as City Manager Sabrante and city staff who are here as well. I appreciate the time. I will try to be brief. As you might have seen in the email you received over the weekend, as well as in your reading materials, there's been a lot of successes over the last 7 years. I believe only one current member of the council was on the council in 2011, if I'm correct. Back then we asked for your support and for money. Tonight it's only support, so it's free. So hopefully it's an easier yes. And we have a lot of achievements to talk about that are part of, that you can take credit for the support you gave us 8 years ago for supporting the school. Back when Clayton Valley was not a charter school, it was Clayton Valley High School. It was actually the last year of the district school in Mount Diablo was performing below the district, state, and county averages in math. Now we're well above it. All those entities have increased, but Clayton Valley has increased its achievement much faster. We also were about even with the district, the county, and the state in English language arts or in the reading test, and now we're well above those averages. As is in the resolution, the college and career readiness numbers have improved, not just in readiness in high school, but also in actual number or percent of students going off to college. You had a couple of our students here tonight for doing some great things that I think I would hope that I would be able to rise to the challenge of should they confront me, whether it was a hit and run driver or leukemia. So there's a lot going on. I did want to also address some of the concerns that have come up. I'll be here for questions as well. So if I don't address something specifically on the positive side or on the concern side, I'm happy to come back up and answer them, whether it comes up in public comment or through your questions. But excuse me, I might have to read some of this as well, because I wrote it down. I want to make sure I get it right. So some of the concerns were regarding finances and the school and programs leadership. So over the last year, we've taken several steps to address these concerns and work to move forward to focus on best serving our students. So in regards to finances, in the past years, Clayton Valley engaged in 3 audits. The first one is the traditional annual one you do as a nonprofit. That's one that Clayton Valley Charter High School has done every year. That's always a public document. It's always approved prior to December 15th. It's on our website for every single year of the charter. We could provide that to anybody if they want. But the second 2 were actually forensic audits that were looking backwards at the school before I came on board. I started in August of 2018. The first audit looked from 2016 to about June of 2018. And the second one, which was a deeper dive, Clayton Valley High School actually paid about $62,000 for it. And it went all the way back to 2012 to try to make sure that we had everything right and that we were uncovering some things that if we needed to implement some best practices, we had the correct data and the correct information to do that. So both those audits took place. Every single recommendation, whether it came out of the audit from the auditor or if it came from the County Office of Education as a result of reading that audit, we agreed to implement, and they're either implemented or in the process of being implemented, so we're excited to say that. Some things were referred to the district attorney by the Contra Costa County Office of Education. The district attorney did decline to pursue any type of investigation, which told us that whatever they shared was not enough to warrant anything further in terms of action regarding past leadership and looking into that. And then in terms of governance, which I know has been a question. So back in June of this year, the County Board of Education approved changes to the Clayton Valley Charter High School governance. The Clayton Valley Board had to approve that first, send it to the county office, who's our authorizer, and it's called a material revision, and so they have to approve that major of a change, in which they did. Those changes haven't taken effect yet because we essentially in the fall are going through our election or selection process for board members, which opened up on September 1st and will close in December. And so the new folks who are eligible to be on the board are now perhaps putting their applications together. There's a training on Saturday. So we don't know who's in yet because October 1st is the deadline, but then they go through a series of steps in our bylaws. The big changes there have been we've taken all the managers off the board. So if you're the principal, or you're a manager of employees, you cannot be on the board anymore. Staff board members or employees who can be board members must be part of one of our bargaining units, or eligible for one of our bargaining units. They can choose to be in the bargaining unit or not, but we have a classified union and a teachers union. So only those members only those employees are eligible for board seats. We also maintained a majority elected board. So we went from 9 board members to 7. And 4 of those board members are elected by constituency groups, whether they be parents or fellow employees, and then 3 are appointed by the rest of the board. And then the other piece is we got rid of what some would say, some including myself, would say is subjective qualifications and just change it to binary eligibility. Either you're eligible or you're not, and it's a very objective set of requirements, like to be a parent, you have to have a kid who goes to the school, as opposed to you have to be supportive of the school, or something that you could be seen as like being subjective and it's up to me to decide if you're supportive or not, and then that decides if you get on the ballot. We just got rid of all of that. And now it's just a strict eligibility piece. All the applications are public, so every member of the public could see if they are eligible or not to meet the requirements to be a candidate for the board. So those are a couple of the both the highlights and then the stuff that I spent some time doing that unfortunately wasn't kid-centered. And even if we do governance really well, it doesn't mean the kids are going to achieve better, but we've got to be able to move past it and make sure we're running a tight ship and make sure the money's going to the right place and we're running it in the right way. And so we have taken those steps. I'd be happy to step aside for public comment and or hang out to take your questions. And we do ask for your support. The school has done some great things for the community and for the kids, and we hope to continue to be able to serve you as essentially the only high school that is zoned to take in the kids of the city of Clayton. So thank you again for your time. I appreciate it.
Thank you. So maybe we'll do questions from council first, and then I'll open up for public comment. Are there any questions?
Fire away. It's a good practice run because we're going before the county on October 16th. So you guys can loosen me up a little bit. So I'm ready for that.
So I have.
That's too easy. That's too easy. So
I have some questions. I have some questions. So, and a lot of this happened before you came on the board.
I will do my best to answer it fully as I can.
But I realize you're inheriting a situation, and I think there's still some concerns, I think, in the community. So I'm going to ask you a couple questions.
Absolutely.
I just want to get
And
answers.
it happens when you're a teacher, too. Like maybe they had a subpar 3rd grade year and you're a 4th grade teacher and you got to pick up the slack. So it's okay.
Yeah.
We're used to it in education.
In terms of the board, so you now have 7 members. You mentioned 4 are elected and 3 are appointed. Why not have a fully elected board like some other school districts have?
Yeah, so a couple of things. So one, that board's not in place yet. They're slated to sit down in January. So right now we still have our 9-member structure because those people are kind of working out their terms. It's kind of like when a at-large election goes to trustee areas, like you still have to work out over the course of some people's terms, like they still have to work their way out. So the question was around why not go to all elected. So there's a couple reasons for that. One, we do not have the power to compel an election of the citizens or of the eligible voters or whatever you may be. So we couldn't go and say, hey, county clerk, we're running an election for this geographic area. Can you send out a bunch of ballots? So we just don't have that power to do it. Second, when we look at charter schools and the best practice we found, some of them that have elected board members, which Clayton Valley has always had, are specifically elected by certain constituency groups that are attached to the school somehow. So employees, parents, we found it's the school where one of the teacher reps is elected by the students, but they have like 4 teacher reps and we don't have that, so we didn't go with that option. So there's a specific constituency group that's attached to the school that's doing the elections. And then the other piece was that we wanted to be able to maintain some level of having community members and educators who aren't employees of the school be on the board to have that voice, but there's no natural constituency to elect those people. If you're an educator, but you're not an employee, we couldn't figure out who the electorate would be to put that person on the board besides the current board members, because we can't pull like all the educators, quote unquote, who live in the area. And the same thing for community members. Like we couldn't figure out a natural way to compel that type of election. The parents is easy, right? Parents, you vote. We give you all a ballot. We tell you how to vote. We go through the process. Staff is the same thing. Staff is a little easier that we have them as a captive audience, so we can say, hey, today you're doing your votes. But for the community member and for the educator, who we thought were powerful voices to have on the board, there's not a natural electorate for that.
Okay.
And the other piece is the employees don't necessarily get to vote on everything because there's a natural conflict of interest there. Just like if you had a city employee on the council, which I know you can't have, but in that case, they would be recused or forced to recuse themselves from certain votes. So our teacher rep has to step aside if it's my evaluation or a teacher contract, but having an educator on the board helps bring that education voice in for our what we call our non-interested members. Even though it's not a teacher at the school, it's still an educator with that background. And again, without a natural electorate, this was the best option we could come up with.
Okay, but it is majority elected now that we have 4 of them versus 3 appointed. So the 3 that are appointed, who are they appointed by?
The other board members.
The other, okay, so the other, got it, okay. So
I don't get to appoint my boss at this point.
So then you no longer have employee positions on the board. I think you mentioned that.
We have 2 staff positions, but what we eliminated was the ability for a manager to be on the board. So in the past, we had an administrative board seat. So an administrator by default is going to be a manager of someone, and that's just a little bit more awkward. If you're an employee and your boss is not only your boss, but they're also a board member, that creates the potential for additional awkwardness, conflict of interest, whatever you want to call it. So we just got rid of that. So the staff seats are a teacher, who essentially is an employee who's eligible to be in our teacher union, and then a staff member who's eligible for either the teacher union or the classified staff union. So none of those people are managers by default, and so we have allowed those constituency groups to maintain a seat on the board. We've just eliminated the ability for managers to be on the board.
Okay. So then in terms of the parent rep, and I think you have 1 parent rep on the board, right?
2
parent reps.
Yeah,
okay.
and then 3, and then if the county decides to put a rep on the board, which is a funky thing with charter schools where your authorizer can insert a board member, we would add a 3rd parent rep.
Got it.
To
Okay.
balance out.
So in terms of the parent rep, I think at one point, and it was maybe 3 years ago, I think the rules got changed a little bit where it was sort of a subjective criteria where I think you had to, there's a nomination
Like a loyalty oath of some kind or something.
Yeah,
like
something,
that. Yes.
yeah. So that is all gone. So it's either if you're a parent, you're eligible to run for the board. Is it that
Correct.
simple?
Yeah. So it's very binary, like yes or no, not degree, or there's no gray area. So you've applied on time. You've only applied for 1 board seat, so you're not trying to you're not trying to apply for 5 different board seats. You can only apply for 1. You attend the orientation, and you actually are a parent of a kid who attends the school.
Okay.
Or a guardian. You don't have to be a biological parent. You could be a guardian of a kid who attends the school.
Yeah, okay, makes sense. Then in terms of, so I know that the audit report that was done, there's some things that had happened in the past, but I think, for example, there was I think $40,000 was spent of the charter monies on attorneys' fees on a potential new charter in Antioch.
19,000. We redid the math. Yes.
Well, some money
heavily
still,
redacted,
more than zero. And then I
Correct.
think there was a creation of assistant superintendent position for Ron Leone. There was no approval by the board on that. So what have you done to kind of make sure that those kinds of things that really should have a board approval
I should
are
have
happening?
fully read my comments about all the changes we've made. So one thing is that any expenditure over $25,000 has to be approved by the board. And when the board approves them, it has to be a part of open session. So like the rent that we pay to Mount Diablo, which for some people turned out to be a mystery that we paid it, is now approved by our board during open session because that is higher than I can write a check for. So I think that's one thing. Two, the board has to approve any employment agreement. Independent contractor, custodian, any employment agreement has to go to the board, and so that is a publicly reported item, and that contract is now available for the public to see at any time. Okay. We did enroll in Transparent California, despite what seemed like their best efforts to not have us enroll, but we did, and so all of our information is there as well. And then I think the other thing that we've done to try to open up the books on finances is every board meeting, the first board meeting of the month, it has our check register as well as our bank statements. So any member of the public could go in and see every single expenditure that we've made, as well as our bank account statements and how the money, if it has moved, how it has moved. And even though the total hasn't changed, maybe we put more into a CD or more into a money market account, which I think we're allowed to do. There's only like 2 or 3 we can do to earn interest as opposed to keeping it in checking and earning no interest.
Okay. And when you say publicly available, some of this information, what does that mean? Can a member of the public go to the website or somewhere to obtain it, or do they have to make a public records request, or how does a member of the public?
Yeah, so our board documents are posted online.
Okay.
The agenda has to be posted. We follow the same Brown Act you all follow, so regular meeting 72 hours in advance, special meeting 24 hours in advance. If there's something in the packet that doesn't get posted online beforehand, because we're still working on it, which I know as staff members who serve councils, like sometimes that happens, like the staff report is hot off the press, it just gets posted after the meeting. So any check register for the last, I can't remember how many months because I don't know exactly when we started doing it, is available online. And if somebody wanted one that wasn't posted online for some reason, we would just provide that to you. And we would try to avoid the PRA request for something like that. For something that's a little bit more complex, we might have you do that so that our lawyers can go through and properly redact everything, like personal information. But for something that we're already posting, we just didn't post in the past, that would be an easy ask.
Okay. Then you touched upon the reserve issue, not the reserve issue, but the dispute about the lease with the Mount Diablo Unified School District. And I think there's at least a perception that the rent monies were not paid to the district, and that sort of comes back to, is the district itself getting hurt because they're not getting the money? So can you clarify kind of what the status is on the lease payments for the campus itself?
So the first year of the charter, and I like how you've said a couple times like this is before I showed up. But yes, the first year of the charter, there was an agreement, a written agreement that both parties had signed to pay $160,000 in rent. Mm-hmm. That was because the way the timing of the charter did not allow the charter and the district to go through the proper legal process, which actually kicks in November. But the charter didn't know it was going to be a charter in November because it took longer to get approved, and so they couldn't go through that process. So then when they went through that process in 2012-13 for 13-14 and afterwards, that's where the legal dispute showed up, and the district said, we think that you owe this much, and the charter said, we think we should pay this much. So every year we have paid that $160,000. We're just still trying to negotiate what is the actual amount that we owe, and that has been tied up in litigation since 2013 and is currently on its way to an appeal at whatever court comes after the one it just was at.
Okay.
But we do have a sizable amount of money set aside outside of the reserve in a restricted account to just write the district a check when that gets settled. There's a lot of complicated stuff in it that I could go into and like really nerd out on, but you already did that with your transportation dollars, so I didn't want to do that now. But if you persist or would like to talk about it afterwards, I could do that. So.
Okay. But so it's pending solution, it sounds like.
It is, and we agree that we owe them money.
Right.
However, how much money, and are we getting double charged where we're doing a service and paying for it ourselves and then getting charged for it by our landlord is something we're trying to avoid, because those dollars really should go to kids and not be counted for the custodial at some other campus when we're paying for our own custodial or something to that nature.
Okay. Teachers, what's your typical student-teacher ratio?
So we have a collective bargaining agreement that says here are the class size ratios. So it is probably in line with what Mount Diablo is. However, we have purposely overhired teachers this past year because, one, we had quality candidates. Two, we were able to get creative with some of our space on campus. And so we've been able to push down some of the ratios in our freshman English and our Algebra 1 classes, which are typically some of the tougher ones. So the max in Algebra 1 is 37 and our average is 28. And I believe the average in English is somewhere in the high 20s as well, even though the max is 33. So we have a max of 33 in English, it's 34 in science, it's 37 in math. Again, the numbers are not my desire, but that's where they are, and with the number of rooms we have, that's what we do. So we're trying to get the numbers lower where we can. And we did that again by overhiring and then getting creative with some of our facility usage. Also, our special education caseloads are lower than they have to be because we believe that those are our students with the most potential, and so how do we get them more attention? So instead of maxing out at 28, we're actually at 23 kids per special education teacher.
Okay, and I think what's happening actually with the district, I think this year especially, the class sizes have actually increased, and I think we're seeing it even at Mount Diablo View Middle School that there's a whole lot. There's some classes with 45 students in them.
We have PE classes with 45 students, but that's a little bit different than math classes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So.
And then teacher turnover. Can you talk a little bit about that? What's your typical teacher turnover?
Yeah.
Is that typical?
So I don't know that there's a typical. I think it's been very volatile, kind of like the S&P 500 lately, where it goes up and down quite rapidly. So what I can say though is that we did sign a contract with our teachers that went into effect this year. They are now. And I want to, there's a lawyer in the room, there may be more than one, I don't know, but there's at least one. I want to qualify this with, we did the comparison in March of 2019 with the publicly available data, but our contract makes them the highest paid in Contra Costa County, and they get full benefit coverage. So we think that that's a huge boost to show how much we value and want to invest in them. We only had one teacher leave Clayton Valley from 2018-19 to this year, who's currently teaching high school in Contra Costa County. We lost, I think, 8 other ones. One went to Rhode Island, one moved to South Lake Tahoe, one's teaching elementary school, one's having a kid and not teaching. So those ones I'm not as concerned about because it's hard to copy Rhode Island here in Clayton. But if you're going down the street to teach at Northgate or somewhere else, that's something we need to do differently, and we only had one instance of that. The past, I did the report for the county. So the 4 years before that, the teacher retention on average was 83% year over year, which if you add that up over 4 years, that's a lot of 17%. Now, some of that was like the teacher came and left after 1 year, but sometimes it was in year one you lost 17% of teachers. In year two you lost a different 17%, and that can add up over time. But we are seeing that go down, and again, we only had one teacher leave to continue teaching high school in Contra Costa County from last year to this year. Maybe if the Kirker Pass magic bullet train or whatever you guys are talking about comes to pass, she'll come back because she lives in Oakley and now teaches at Freedom High School, and I guess I can understand that commute. Not having to make it myself, but I'm sure it's terrible. So that was the reason for her leaving.
Okay, perfect. And my last question.
I got plenty of time. It's your guys' clock. You maybe stay here. So like one of our administrators said, we're already in it. We're here all night. We'll be back at 7 tomorrow, but we're here all night. So.
Yeah. So I'm really happy to hear that some of the changes have been made in the board rules and things like that, because I think so I guess the big picture question is, how do you make sure that what happened sort of in the Lindsay era will not happen again? Because I think what happened when the charter was originally approved, there were certain rules that then got changed with Mr. Lindsay.
Yeah, that's the moving finish line. Right?
Yeah. So how do you make sure that that doesn't happen again, essentially?
Yeah. So I mean, I think I would say to a couple of things. One, like trust can only be built with time. So the things that I talked about with different folks who had the suspicions of me because I was affiliated with Clayton Valley Charter High School is that all we can do is continue to make the right decision and just do that time and time again, and that's going to gradually build back trust. And just know that we haven't earned anything or don't deserve anything. We just have to slowly go about that. I think two is I think it was Brandeis from the Supreme Court who said sunshine is the greatest disinfectant?
Disinfectant.
Yeah, a reporter asked me on my first day if I was going to be more transparent. I said, dude, I've been here for 4 hours. I'm talking to you, so hopefully that's a sign. And I misquoted that Brandeis quote. I was like, light is the best, cleaner or something like that. And he corrected me, but obviously I forgot it. So I think if we're continuing to do those things, and you see like the check register's out every month, the bank statements are out every month, every contract's available, everyone's salary is posted, that it's going to be hard to then do some kind of funny business. if you start to see those things come away, like all of a sudden the check register isn't showing up, all of a sudden the contracts are now being behind some kind of firewall with lawyers, your ears should perk up and say, hey, like something's going on here. So if we're operating in this way of trying to be as open and transparent as possible, because we are a public agency, we get public dollars, we're a nonprofit, like then give us the grace that maybe we have earned, which may just be a little bit, which is fine, and we know that, but give us a little bit. And then if we aren't doing those things, hold us accountable in whichever way people feel like they can, however that is.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So any other questions, Vice Mayor Pierce?
I'm trying to figure out if they're going to get like harder or easier, so we'll see.
I was glad to hear you say that you post like we do for the Brown Act. I would assume that your board members get regular training on the Brown Act.
They do. They would probably say annoyingly so, but yes.
That's okay.
Yeah.
That's okay.
And they get lots of reminders as well.
Okay. And the other question I had immediately, I'll have some comments when we get to that point, but the attorneys that started with the charter, are they still on board?
So there's a law firm that I believe helped the charter in the beginning, which is called Young Mini and Core.
Right.
And they are still involved. There was another law firm that came in. I can't tell you when, but I think it was like in the 2014 to 2017 range. And that's a firm called Procopio, and they are no longer, we're no longer working with them. So the ones who were here before it was a charter school, kind of helping that founding steering committee get started, they're still here. That's the Young Mini and Core law firm. That's the only one that we're working with outside of a couple of specialized cases.
Okay. Interesting. I had several discussions with them about the Brown Act and its applicability to a charter high school. And their contention at that time was it didn't apply.
What time was that? What maybe is that?
The Brown Act didn't apply to a charter high school board.
Okay, well, so.
And I argued that it needed to, and I was rebuffed.
Yeah, no, and I would say, like, if we're trying to split hairs over what does and doesn't apply in public transparency, that we've already lost the argument on our side from the moral high ground, if you will. But there have been some laws passed, particularly this year in February. SB 126 was signed by the governor and actually supported by the charter school industry. I don't know if that's the right word, charter school lobby, charter school group, about transparency and essentially taking all the rules that apply to a school district and applying almost all of them to a charter school. So the Brown Act, Conflict of Interest Code, the Public Records Act, the Government Code Section 1090, all of those for the most part apply cookie cutter. 1090 is the one where there's a little bit of a loophole, like we can have employees on our boards, whereas a school district could not have that. But the employees that we have to recuse themselves from anything affecting their employment. But that's really the only place where there's now a difference between the transparency laws that apply to a school district and those that apply to a charter school. So if that same lawyer or someone else tried to have that same argument, they would actually not be able to, because SB 126 just clarified that for everybody and said, now we're all playing by the same rules.
Okay, so at that time, it maybe technically did not apply.
I don't know. So I came from Sacramento, and I was there for 12 years in a charter school system that was similar to Clayton Valley, in that it was a district school that became a charter school, and we were always compliant with the Brown Act. We didn't use the same law firm. We had like a person on retainer. Right. We actually used that same law firm for charter renewal every 5 years, but not for the day-to-day. But we did abide by the Brown Act because we felt that, I was told it did apply.
Well, I'm glad to hear that you do now.
Yes.
Great. Any other questions?
I don't have any questions. I just I did appreciate the materials that you had sent over. I read through all. There's a lot, especially the forensic audit reports, and I think that they were very thorough. And so I was glad to see all the proactive steps that the school had taken.
Thank you. All right.
Perfect.
Thank you. I'm happy to come back if need be.
See, so let me open up for public comment. I have one speaker card that I think got canceled, and I think there's a number of notes here just asking the council to table the matter for today and not vote on it. But then I do have one other speaker that is here still, so I have Dave Shuey. And if anyone else would like to speak, certainly you're welcome to.
Good evening, Mayor and Council and staff. This is a real no-brainer. You have all asked some very good questions that have been going on behind the scenes and in front of the scenes for a long time. The fact of the matter is that administrative troubles have been present and are being corrected or have been corrected. The students have not suffered. The students have improved year after year after year after year. Everything that we envisioned when we set out to do it. And the funny thing is, you each got the packet from Jim, and I looked at it and I said, well, wait a minute, that actually soft-sold what this council did. This process was over a year long because I was the mayor when it started, and then Howard Geller became the mayor when it was approved. This council was the first in the state to actually advocate and support a conversion charter, and it was unheard of. We were willing to put up money to help that because it was for our kids. The CBCA actually stepped up and did that in lieu of us, but we were willing to do that. Yes, we had growing pains. The people that did that charter were teachers. They were people in the community. They were Julie, myself, everybody else. We were learning. There's still a learning curve. Jim has been amazing in keeping an open mind and letting everybody know we still don't know everything and we need to do it. So the openness is there. The students are absolutely thriving. The school is improving. The realtors love it. Everything about this is a no-brainer, and it's really exciting to see Jim come in and do it. And I have some answers to some of your questions to you that we could talk about afterwards, but I only have 3 minutes. So I just want to say this council took a stand in 2011, and it was the right thing to do. It's still the right thing to do. And unfortunately, even though we meet every single criteria for reapproval, there is still rumblings and there is still a feeling out there that people don't like charters. And the Public Teachers Union, despite our teachers being the best paid, that public union is against charter schools and behind the scenes is working very hard to disrupt it. So we need your support as a city to show the county this is what we want. It's the same as what we wanted in 2011, and we need to do it. So this needs to be a 5-0 vote, and it's a no-brainer. Thanks.
Great, thank you. Is there anyone else who would like to comment on this item? Go ahead. Yep.
Hi, Karen Amos, address 364 Mount Washington Way, Clayton. I was a huge skeptic. I was living out of state at the time when the first conversation started about the charter. It was well before 2012 that it started. And I remember sending email out asking, what are you going to do about kids who get tossed out of schools if this is the only one in the neighborhood that they can attend? So I was a huge skeptic. My oldest has graduated from Clayton Valley. She is now starting her sophomore year in college. She graduated with a number of AP classes, honors classes. I was a graduate of Clayton Valley High. There were maybe 3 or 4 AP classes. There are now well more than that. Children are much more prepared than they were at the time to apply to different colleges, to get into colleges with greater expectations of the students that are applying. I didn't know whether the charter was going to reach those levels, but I'm really pleased with the results. I wanted to stand up and say something because I know that there is a rumbling. There are people who are not happy with it. I was not a fan of the former executive director. He reminded me of Herb Tarlick, if you know who that is, from WKRP. That's the ooze that he just covered on everything. I'm really glad that he's gone. He was not honest. He was not trustworthy. The only thing that came out of generational thing. The only thing that happened under that leadership was the structure was put in place and the students began to thrive. And I think that is something that we need to focus on. The outcome, I'm not saying that the financials and the leadership is not a huge part of that, but the student outcome you can't dispute. And I think that a lot of the students here in Clayton who attend would feel the same way. Their parents may feel the same way. I know I do. And I would recommend that the council give it serious consideration to renew and to support the renewal of the charter. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Anyone else? Seeing none, we'll close public comment and bring it back to the council for discussion. Go ahead, Vice Mayor Pierce.
You know, this is absolutely a no-brainer to me. It was a no-brainer when we supported it back in 2011. It's a no-brainer today. What I focus on, yes, there have been lots of growing pains, to put it mildly. There have been big issues to get over. But the one constant is that the kids are doing great. The other thing is it's a whole lot safer on that campus than it ever was when my kids were there. And I hate to tell you how long ago that was, but it was a very long time ago. And I look forward to having confidence that my grandkids can go to that school and be safe and thrive and learn and be well prepared, whether they decide to go to a 2-year college, a 4-year college, or into a trade of some kind. These kids are being prepared for life. They're not being assumed to all have to go to a 4-year college. These kids are being prepared to be good citizens and part of the community. And I have to tell you, I am so impressed, because through all the political quagmire that's gone on, the one constant has been the kids. And the kids are doing great. These kids are turning into the citizens that we want to run our community in the future. They are being trained on community service and giving back. They are being trained on being responsible for taking care of their own school. I will tell you one very quick story. When my kids were in Clayton Valley High School, when my oldest started there was one restroom that worked for the boys, that was usable. They got the others fixed, and the day after they were fixed, during an assembly, somebody put a cherry bomb in one of the toilets and blew everything up. That was the kind of lack of respect that took place on that campus all the time when my kids were at Clayton Valley High School. It was a mess. There were drugs being sold on campus. The litter was horrible. It was filthy. There was no respect for other people's property. What I am hearing from students today is that that is not the case at all anymore. The campus is clean, it's respected, the kids respect each other, they're thriving. And this is a no-brainer for me.
I too wish to support this effort, and I have seen the improvements that have been made, because I went to a couple of the board meetings that under the old administration, and it was just a nosebleed is the best way I can explain it. But Mr. Scheibel and the team he's brought in and the reforms that they put in place are moving that institution forward, and the results are plain.
But my grandfather used to say, "What was, learn from it." And I think we've done that. We got a sharp cookie executive director. It's much more transparent. Everything's out there, and the kids, like Vice Mayor Pierce said, are thriving. And that's the one thing, the one constant that's always been at the charter school. And I would very much support keeping it a charter school.
Yeah, I take every opportunity I can to talk with students. Whenever I learn they go to the charter school, I ask them about what their experience is like, how their classes are like, how their teachers are, and down the line across the board, every student that I talk to is all favorable. And to me, that really does speak to the learning environment. I don't have kids in high school yet; my kids are young, but so that's why I'm asking, because I think we have a choice here, and whenever I get a chance, I always ask, like, what's it like? And when I asked these questions about 6 or 7 years ago, I got kind of mixed responses, I think. Some people were still unsure that, some of the changes hadn't fully permeated throughout the whole environment. But over the past several years, the change has been very obvious, and so I'm very supportive. I think in talking with Mr. Scheibel and all students and several of the teachers as well, I have no doubt. So.
Okay, so for me, I mean, I have a junior in high school, one that actually doesn't go to Clayton Valley Charter High School, goes to one of the Mount Diablo Unified School District high school. But I have also a lot of our friends and her friends who do go to Clayton Valley, and I have heard also very positive stories from those students, including, there's a lot of things that the school has done, including some of the academies that I think some kids are very much excelling in. So I heard very positive things about the school from the students as well. I was also not a fan of Mr. Lindsay, and I think he definitely brings a little bit of a baggage into this, but to the extent that I've gotten to know Mr. Scheibel in the last year, I'm very happy to see kind of the direction that he's taking the school, and I think it's a very positive direction in terms of transparency and the board policies and whatnot. So I would suggest that whomever is making a motion today, and I do support the motion because I do think the school is better off heading the direction it's going than without the charter. But I would hope that maybe the motion could be made with the understanding that our support is also continuing that same path in terms of transparency, the board policies that have recently been made about majority elected board and things like that. So that would be my input on that.
As such, I will move approval of a resolution supporting and urging the Contra Costa County Board of Education to approve the renewal of the charter for the Clayton Valley Charter High School.
Second.
Okay, so that has been moved and seconded. Seeing no other discussion, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Seeing none, that does pass unanimously.
So I want to say thank you. It sounds like you have another item after this, so we might have to get out of here to get ready for school tomorrow, but thank you very much.
Perfect. Thank you, Mr. Scheibel.
Thank you.
So let's
keep up the good work.
So we have one other item on our regular calendar, which is consideration of the option to designate a city council voting delegate and alternate delegate to the League of California Cities 2019 annual conference to be held October 16 through 18 in Long Beach, and to determine a city voting position, if any, on 2 League conference general resolutions. Mr. Subranti, do you want to?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just very quickly, as you know, yourself as well as Councilmember Diaz are active League committee members. The League bylaws provide the city is entitled to 1 voting member affecting municipal or legal league policies. The conference registration is required to be a voting delegate. There are 2 general resolutions that are on the conference schedule. Tonight you have the opportunity to appoint some delegates. I will say that there are some financial impacts to sending folks to the league conference, specifically travel as well as the conference fees themselves. So by my calculations, the cost associated with sending just 1 member is going to be approximately $1,600 plus, and we have an annual budget of approximately $1,700. So currently we have built into our budget enough to send 1 member if you choose to do so. I will turn it back to you for consideration of this item.
Okay, are there any questions of staff? Seeing none, let me open up for public comment. I do not have any speaker cards, but if anyone would like to speak, come on up. You have 3 minutes.
Ann Stanaway, 1553 Haviland Place, Clayton. I just don't understand. I mean, here we have a lovely technology called the internet. And there are all kinds of ways across the internet on which to have conferences. Why do we have to send bodies to these conferences? I understand many of you may invest in the hotels in which people stay for these conferences. Bully for you. But we in the city don't really need to support the shareholders of the Hilton. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there any other public comment? Seeing none, we'll close public comment and bring it back to the council. So I think for me, I always look at these on a case-by-case basis and look at really what's on the agenda for the league meeting and whether the items that are for vote are things that would impact Clayton, and two, whether they are items that really need our vote in order to go the direction we want it to go. So that's kind of what I look at. In terms of just for general information, I am on one of the committees on the Transportation, Communication, and Public Works Committee. I've attended their meetings this year, but I do pay my own way when I go there, whether it's by airplane or otherwise. So I think in terms of what's on the agenda this year, I don't see either of those two resolutions being such that would have drastic impacts on Clayton or that wouldn't go the natural way anyway without a vote. So I would be more conservative this year and not spend monies on that. So that would be my position.
Yeah, I agree with you. I looked at the agenda. I didn't see anything that would benefit us. It seemed very Southern California centric. But I think these conferences can be necessary for us. I just don't think that this one in particular is one that we need to send somebody to.
Well, I believe the League of California Cities is a very important institution that we participate in. And I don't see anything on the agenda. I, too, am one of the committee members. And turns out that the meeting is at 10 o'clock on Wednesday morning. And for some reason, both airlines that fly into Long Beach, JetBlue and Southwest, have canceled their early morning flights.
Yeah.
So the one flight leaves at 10 o'clock, the other one leaves at 9 o'clock, and the meeting's at 10 o'clock for an hour. And so if I were to go, which I usually pick up my own tab on that, I would have to fly down the night before, get a hotel, and rent a car or use an Uber or whatever to get over to the meeting for an hour. And in this case, it's not worth it. So I personally, if I were going to go, I would, as I have in the past, picked up my own costs on that. But so I don't see anything necessary to send somebody.
Vice Mayor Pierce.
The only comment I would make is the two resolutions. One is very Southern California centric, obviously, the one that deals with the river pollution on the border, but the other one, the Rule 20A funds, I think does apply statewide. Anybody, particularly those vulnerable to wildfire and needing to do undergrounding of power lines, that applies to everybody. But because of that, I think it's almost a no-brainer that that's going to get overwhelmingly approved by whoever is there. Unfortunately, these conferences can be extremely beneficial. Sometimes some of the sessions are very informative. I do wish, as was mentioned, I wish they would make them electronically, available, but we haven't convinced them to do that yet. And it is an expensive proposition when you have to go out of state. When it's up in Northern California and it's something where we can commute daily to it, then the registration fee is all we have to pay, and even that's not cheap, but at least it's doable. In this case, I know that both Tuya and Jim serve on the committees and they pick up their own tab for that. I've had some conversations, I think the rest of the council members likely have too, with our city manager about how we might do things differently in the future, but that's another conversation, to maybe put an allowance in there per council member, something like that in the future. But for right now, I don't see the urgency in this one unless someone sees that there are enough of the sessions that would be valuable to the council member for attending the entire session. In that case, then maybe to go down just for the vote, no.
Let's not go.
Okay.
So
Quick decision.
So I think we don't need any action in that case. I think we're taking a pass.
And I would just say, I have mentioned at the East Bay League, I know others have too when they've been there, I've mentioned at league functions that the cost of this conference is outrageously expensive. It used to be something that whole councils could afford to go to and have a real learning experience, and the sessions were really valuable. I think the quality of the sessions has gone downhill and the price has gone through the roof. So,
if I might add, the cost of the conference is waived for committee members because we don't have to buy into the full conference to attend our committee meeting. That was communicated to all of us. I suspect you got it as well. Did you not?
for the committee meeting, yes, but to vote, you have to pay for the conference.
To vote. But I mean, if
Or
there's
to-
other sessions
to
that
pay
you
one
wanted to
day.
attend.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and what you're saying, I think, Jim, is that during the year when they have there's 3 meetings earlier in the year, though, where the committees meet, and those are full-day meetings, and those actually are helpful, but they do not have any cost associated with them. It's just the cost of getting there. Okay, so I think we unanimously decided to take a pass on this. So let's move on to the next item, which is item 10, which is are there any requests by the council members for future meetings?
Yes, I have one,
Go ahead.
ma'am. And that is, I would like to have the city staff look into the establishment of a, I guess I don't know how to characterize it, but the interim city manager and I discussed this, but a fund or a budgetary item by council member to attend conferences and their travel. And I know that other cities have that, and I believe that there is a way to facilitate that for future other meetings.
Okay, any other items?
I have a couple of things.
Go ahead.
First of all, I spoke with the city manager with regard to the Keller House because of the, I understand there's been some plaster came down inside there, and it's been determined that there's some roof damage there. And as you know, we have some quite a bit of the library books and things in there that we don't want to lose. And so we have to find some way of funding roof repair or find out what that roof repair is going to cost us and go from there. So I'd like to find out what that's all about.
Through the mayor, yes, we are looking into getting a cost estimate for repair. So we're hoping to get at least a bid or two to be able to consider that, and we may have budget available for that sort of thing in the base budget. But if it is too expensive, then we could conceivably have to come back to council. But thanks to your pointing that out to us, I was out there with Jim Warburton looking at exactly that issue among the others that you pointed out.
Great. And then the other thing I have is back to the glyphosate issue. I know we mentioned it last time, where we are on the use of glyphosate and whether or not we're going to continue to do that. Take a look at the East Bay Park District or whatever we can do to maybe mitigate some of that. And then finally, well, aside from Rosadante and Ms. Stanway's having trouble, I'd like to find out exactly where you're having trouble crossing the streets. I would like to see that. But in our goal-setting session, we talked about taking a look at the downtown specific plan. I wanted to find out when we were planning on doing that and taking a look at the vision of the community, especially for the land downtown at the gateway to our community. I know there's been a lot of talk about possible ballot measures or things, but we need to take a look at the downtown specific plan and find out what it is as far as the vision of the community is for specifically for that land and for what is going to be going downtown, if anything.
Okay. Anything else? So I have, so on the roundup thing, so we did have that discussion earlier, and I think at that point we actually had some best practices that are in place. So are you looking at re-looking at those?
I think we should relook at it, given the lawsuits that have taken place and the awards that have been given out, and also some of the changes in other cities or the East Bay Parks District banning the use of glyphosate. Where are we going with this down the road? Because things change very quickly. And when we had our presentation several months ago, there was only one award at that time. Now there's been several. And so I think we should take just another look at that.
Madam Mayor, I can chime in a little bit on that particular issue. We are no longer using Roundup anywhere where pedestrians should be. So, for example, we still use it in the medians, but if you're a pedestrian in the median, you have probably some real big concerns. You shouldn't be out there. But we're using it in a couple of the other locations away from sidewalks, nowhere near sidewalks, nowhere near parks. So we've dramatically decreased the amount that we use. The next step would be to stop it altogether, and that could be a policy direction that you may want to take. That step has been taken by other cities. We discussed this just last week at the Public Managers Association meeting, and several cities have decided to, in one city's case, they chose to do a moratorium on it and just stop use until further information becomes available. That's certainly something that from a staff level we could implement overnight. From the standpoint of getting all of the numbers, for example, on the 19 cities in Contra Costa County, I don't have those. I know there are some still using and some that I have stopped entirely. But right now, we've dramatically cut it back, but we haven't stopped entirely.
Yeah, I think that was an item that you had raised originally. I brought up a separate time, and now we're here again. I think that with the change in the landscape, it behooves us to take a look just for prudence. So I would share your request.
Okay.
Fair enough. And what I'll do prior to bringing that back to council is gather the information so we can see exactly what the numbers are on who's doing what around this region, as well as what some of those best practices are and the alternatives. And I know some cities and agencies are using alternatives. We'll gather that information, bring it back to you so you have some options.
Okay. So, and then two things from me. The first item is not something that really needs to come back to the council. It's something that it can be handled at staff level, and I've already talked to the city manager about this. But so it sort of live and learn, situation. So when we do street work, I'm not talking about emergency work of any kind, but when we do resurfacing or patching up of our streets, we want to provide our residents notice of that so that they can be prepared that their street is about to be dug up and there's equipment. And so there was a recent situation that happened in one part of the town, and I think I talked to the city manager about just looking at what our citywide policy should be as to, we often know, or the contractors at least know, when they're going to be doing that work, and they could give a time frame. So I think we can do a better job informing our residents when their streets are going to be impacted. So I think the city manager, you're going to look into that, but again, it's not something that needs to come back to us. It's something that staff can obviously implement some better practices on notice, and I already talked with Mr. Sobranti.
Let me just be verbal on that.
Yep.
Yes, we are making changes so that there is more notification and more types of notification than has been done in the past or at least in the recent past. I don't know what the history is on it, but we're going to make sure that we do everything we can to notify the residents of what their potential inconvenience might be due to road work or any work that's going on in neighborhoods in particular.
And then I would echo the downtown specific plan, and this is actually something I've spoken with our interim city manager. I spoke with our prior city manager as well, and I think, ballot measures are extreme, and they're very up or down type thing. I think what we really need to have is a conversation with our city as to what the future and what the vision looks like. And I think, and I'm hoping that we could do, whether it's a workshop type format, whether it's a charrette type format where we can really engage our citizens and different stakeholders. So I think there's a conversation to be had on what the downtown vision is, but I think it needs to be thought through process as to how do we engage everybody, how do we share information among everybody, and then there's a money question too. So where do we pull the monies to do that type of process? So I think it'd be great to, at least for us to decide how can we facilitate that discussion the best, and where do we pull the monies for that? Yes.
I know, and I'm sure our city manager knows this, there are funds available through the state for planning. And they might be available for exactly that process. And they are a per capita type funding that we're automatically entitled to. We just have to put the proposal together and ask for them.
Okay. That would be great. So with that, then we will go back into our closed session. So let's take a 3-minute break and clear the room and go into closed session. Thank you.